How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.
the end? There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the stone here. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone This is the final Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be out you.
Won't anybody help us? What are we running for? When there's nowhere we can run to anymore. We can't afford to be innocent. Stand up and face the enemy. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible. And with the power of conviction, there is no sacrifice. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible.
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
great
her.
noticer sent $200.
Literally.
So
not
it's,
Ian.
it's not because I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is
problem.
that what you call reporting?
Go
and live
under, if
streaming?
you're going to do it,
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah, please.
But Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
What's up? What's up? What's up, guys? How's it going? I keep forgetting that today is Wednesday. I keep thinking in my head for some reason that today is Thursday. My day has gone really, really, really weird so far. It's like I was so tired after last night's stream that I basically like went right to bed, passed the fuck out. I don't even think it was one of those sleeps last night where like I was so tired after last night's stream that I think I stayed in exactly the same position all night because I was out. There was no moving, there was no turning back and forth, there was no accidentally getting twisted up in the blanket in the middle of the night. I literally, I think, laid down and was in exactly the same position that I fell asleep in when I woke up in the morning. It's just like, okay, maybe that was a bit too much streaming yesterday, Karlyn. Maybe that was just like a little bit too much streaming. I mean, I know it's your birthday week and everything. I'm talking to myself in the third person now. I know it's my birthday week, but maybe we shouldn't be. You are getting older at the ripe old age of 29. And so maybe we shouldn't be pushing it quite that far. I gotta say though, I honestly, yeah, actually, yeah. I did a long string of sleeps where like I would wake up super early and not be able to get back to sleep for a couple hours. And then finally I would fall back asleep and then I would wake up later and I'd be all groggy and shit. So me sleeping peacefully through the night, not moving at all because I've exhausted myself is a good thing. Whose open marriage is being exposed tonight? Wait, what's going on? Hang on. Is there another Jeremy stream tonight? Is there another Jeremy retard from the quartering tonight? Is the Kino Casino doing more tonight? What is the see now? Even though I exhausted myself yesterday watching the Kino Casino until like what 3 a.m. or something, that doesn't mean I won't do it again. That doesn't mean I won't do it. Holy shit. Karma. Never, ever, ever doubt, guys, that karma is a real thing. Never, ever doubt that karma is a real thing. Yo, old sub, starting us off strong. W's in the chat for old sub, guys. Thank you so much for those 5 gifted channel memberships. Guys, we had just a ridiculous channel membership day yesterday. Again, I want to thank everyone who donated channel memberships yesterday. We got over 316 new members of the channel yesterday from all the donations that came in, which is awesome because we have a spy stream tomorrow. But now old sub is starting us off strong with another 5. So I'm going to do a channel membership goal. We are going to be doing a serious stream today. The rule is on the channel that if I'm doing a serious stream where I'm covering serious content and I'm holding a class where I'm going to hopefully teach you guys something before the end of it, hopefully I will teach you guys something in the course of this stream that you did not know before you came to it. This is a serious class. And the rule is that when I do a serious stream where we're covering the far left, then we do have a channel membership goal because it's like class dues. It's class dues. Like throw in $5 like Chitalago, W's for Chitalago. We will give you W's in the chat when you donate channel memberships because you're not only helping me out and funding the channel, you're also bringing more supporters in. And that means more people can come to Spy Stream when we do Spy Stream tomorrow around 6:45 in the evening. What is Spy Stream, you ask, if you have never been to one before or you just showed up here? Spy Stream is when we go inside a live leftist organizing call and we sit there like a fly on the wall, like a secret undercover journalist on the leftist organizing calls, and we listen to what the left is talking about when they think people like us are not listening. It's been a light spy stream week. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what's going on. Next week is a really heavy spy stream week, by the way. There's a bunch of stuff scheduled for next week. This week, a little bit lighter. That's okay. You want to know why? There's going to be massive protest coverage on Saturday. Saturday, I'm planning on blocking off the entire day. We're going to do protest coverage. It is National Fuck Ice Day. There's going to be a lot of protesting going on nationwide. I really hope the streamers get their asses outside and start filming this because I can only do coverage if the streamers are filming it. So streamers, go get thee to a leftist city. There's going to be fuckery going on this weekend. And so we're definitely going to be covering that. Then, of course, on Sunday, we have my birthday marathon stream where we're going to watch an 80s TV show about what would have happened if the USSR had like won the Cold War or something like that. And so we're going to be doing that on Sunday for my birthday. You're welcome. But tomorrow is our one and only spy stream this week. Tomorrow at around 7 or 6:45 p.m. Eastern time, we are going to be going undercover into a live organizing call where we are going to sit there and listen to what the left has planned for May Day. Spy streams on my channel are a supporter exclusive. You're literally doing what I do when I go undercover in person, except a lot of leftist stuff takes place online. Is it any different, like going undercover, quote unquote, into one of their organizing calls as it is going to their event in person? Honestly, not really. You do basically the same thing. It's just one, you have to get dressed up like a leftist. Two, you can sit in the comfort of your own home and just listen to what they're saying. But the organizing calls that they have online are pretty much exactly the organizing conversations and discussions they have in real life. For people who want to know how I know that, I've gone undercover with the far left and Antifa more than literally anyone else that I know of. I've gone undercover with more different groups all over the country, more than like literally anyone else that I know of. And if you think that someone has done this more than me, tell me who they are, name a name. I would love to talk to them. I'm not even joking about this. The reason I say I've done it more than anyone is I literally don't know anyone who's done it more than I have. So I would, if there is someone out there who's done it more than I have, I would love to talk to that person because I've had to teach myself how to do all of this stuff. I didn't have any sort of friends or comrades to help me out. Broadview, MDC, and Whipple for sure. There will be dildos provided. Yup, they're going to be throwing dildos at ICE on Saturday, which means entertainment for us. That's rad. Anyway, but if you want to learn what the left has got planned for the upcoming May Day protest, Spy Stream tomorrow is going to be awesome. In order to get access to Spy Stream, you do need to be a supporter. Spy Streams are for supporters only. There's a lot of reasons for that, but that is the way we've decided to do it going forward. I have experimented with making Spy Streams public. I've experimented with doing a hybrid approach where every once in a while I do a public Spy Stream, and I will probably do that every once in a while. But usually what we have found is that the very best way to do Spy Stream is to make them supporter exclusives. One, people tend to take it more seriously because it is a serious endeavor. We are actually trying to analyze what the left is doing in real time so that we can predict what they're going to do next, okay? So there is actually a purpose to doing this. We do take this very seriously, although we can make fun of the left and joke, as much as anyone. We are a research channel, and this is an educational channel at the end of the day. And there are a lot of people here who, alongside me, have been studying the far left for years. We do take this seriously as a research group, and we have found that having Spy Streams as supporter exclusive kind of cuts down on the amount of people who don't take this seriously, because we get a lot of people in the chat, like, mostly right-leaning people who think this is all some big joke, who think that the left are just stupid and narcissist and mentally ill and they don't have jobs and they're all paid protesters. Those people have been lied to by their own media. They have been lied to by the people who they trusted to inform them. It's not their fault that they've been lied to, but it's really, really fucking annoying when they show up in our chat and cause chaos when we are actually trying to take the topic seriously and research it seriously. So we have found that keeping Spy Streams to supporter only is actually a much nicer experience for me. It's a much nicer experience for everyone in the chat that does take this seriously, that does pay to fund this work. And we've also found that it cuts down on the likelihood that we're going to get discovered in what we're doing. I've been like, people wonder how I've been doing this for years and years and years and the left hasn't discovered me, because they aren't looking for me. But if I'm broadcasting their call live on a YouTube channel with 129,000 followers, chances are they're going to get wind of it. Now, have they ever really stopped me from doing it? No. But I want to be able to observe their calls without them suspecting that I am streaming them. Because listen, it's funny when they find out I'm streaming them. Don't get it twisted. It's fucking hilarious when they find out that I'm streaming them and recording them and they get all upset and pissed off and all this stuff. And then we make clips and we put it on Twitter and it's funny as hell. I'm not actually like necessarily upset when they figure it out, because usually they have no idea what name I'm under. So there ain't shit they can really do about it. But the point of Spy Stream is that we actually want to know what they're doing. We want to know what they talk about when they think we aren't listening. We want to know what their plans are for next. Okay. And so we are doing Spy Stream tomorrow. And in order to join us, you do have to be a supporter. You can be a supporter in a lot of different places. My Substack, Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. That's a great place to be a supporter. My Twitter account, you can be a subscriber on there. My Patreon for the 3 people that support me on Patreon, because I just don't really talk about it that much. You can be in my locals community as a paid supporter, or you could be a YouTube channel member. So if you're a YouTube channel member, you will get access to Spy Stream tomorrow. And for the extent of your membership, an old sub asked earlier, has anyone noticed the proportionality of free membership to retard posts? Listen, here's the thing about the gifted channel memberships. I think the gifted channel memberships are an awesome way to fund what I do because I am independently funded. I can only do this if you guys allow me to do it by throwing in $5, $10, $50, whatever you feel is appropriate based on the value that I'm giving you. I can only do this if you guys allow me to. Gifted channel memberships are a way to give people access to Spy Stream who may just not be ready to do a gifted channel membership, maybe not, or buy a channel membership. Maybe they can't afford it. There are a lot of people who, you know, they're having a really tough time economically because gas prices, grocery prices, all that stuff is so high. I totally understand that. And so I love the gifted channel memberships as a way of bringing people in and giving them access to this information if maybe they can't afford it. What that means is sometimes we're going to get some retards that get some gifted channel memberships. That's just the way it goes. Sometimes there are socialists who watch my stream. Sometimes a socialist is accidentally going to get a gifted channel membership, and then they're going to go run around for a month and try to get all my Spy Streams canceled, and they're going to fail colossally, just like Stacy did. But wasn't it fun to have Stacy around for a month where she was trying to get me canceled all the time and she succeeded exactly 0 times? Sometimes that's going to happen. But what I will say, old sub, is because I say this especially to old sub because he gives out so many gifted channel memberships. He's such a fucking legend. Old sub gifts out hundreds and hundreds of channel memberships a month. Sometimes hundreds a week. Sometimes he gives out hundreds of channel memberships in a single fucking week. He's such a fucking legend, along with many other legends on the channel that are so generous with the people here. But I want you to know that the vast, vast, vast majority of feedback that I get from people who get gifted channel memberships is they are grateful for the gifted channel membership and they think it's really cool. And they thank the people that give them to them, and they do come to Spy Stream and they're like, oh, holy shit, I had no idea any of this is happening. I know that sometimes because we make fun of the retards and we call the retards out and we kind of like, you know, shame them before we banish them from the channel. I know it can seem like there are a lot of retards who get gifted channel memberships. I know it can seem that way, but from my experience, it's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? It's like the retards are always going to make themselves known because the retards are too stupid to know otherwise. But the vast majority of people are going to stay quiet. The vast majority of people aren't going to say retarded things in the chat, or they might ask a question here or there, or they just might not be very talkative in the chat. There are a lot of people who watch my channel, and I know it can be sometimes easy to forget this because we don't know who is on the other side of the screen. We only know the people who are showing up in the chat, right? And so if someone just wants to watch and doesn't choose to chat in, we have no idea that they're there, and we have no idea if they're a retard or not. We kind of cross our fingers and hope they're not, but we don't know. And so it's like the retards will always speak up and cause chaos. Most of the good people will stay relatively quiet. And that means, I think, that the vast, vast, vast majority of gifted channel memberships are going to people who are grateful for them, are going to people who they're using them, are going to people who have been sometimes watching my content for a while. Oh, we can never forget Cynthia. I mean, Cynthia is also a fucking queen. I mean, but like the thing is, there's so many people making just very generous gifts now. You and Cynthia are obviously the king and the queen. And I just love you both so much. Like, I mean, your support has been invaluable. There's just so many people who are doing it. I don't want to forget. Anyway, the vast majority of the people, like, I think it is a good thing on large, but we have to be aware channel memberships are gifted out randomly. We don't always know who's going to get one. And just like Chitalago here with another channel membership W, the best we can hope is that they go to people who appreciate them, and that helps us to expand the audience for the channel and get this in front of more people and all that good stuff. All that good stuff. So do you guys want to see what we're watching today? We probably should have done this last night live, but I didn't. We are watching today something that was streamed on Haymarket Books YouTube channel yesterday. So this was streamed live yesterday. It is a brand new presentation. We keep a very close eye on anything that is said on Haymarket Books because Haymarket Books is the largest socialist book publisher in the United States. Haymarket Books publishes every major leftist activist in the United States. Now, people often ask me, they're like, Karlyn, who are the leaders on the left? Now, they want me to say George Soros, which I'm never going to say because that's retarded. That is a conservative bullshit talking point. George Soros has nothing to effing do with these people. Everyone who thinks he does has listened to too much conservative media. I'm very sorry. The left is non-hierarchical and decentralized. However, the way you maintain and expand a decentralized movement is that different people in the movement have different roles. That's not to say that one role is more important than another role. That's not to say that one role is hierarchically superior to another role. It's just that people do different things. It's like people doing different jobs. Think of it like on an assembly line, which is, the proletariat. So that's probably a really good example. Like the person who, I don't really know how assembly lines work. I never worked on one, but like my perception of an assembly line is every single person on the assembly line has a different job. This person puts the parts together, puts it on the assembly line. This person screws in the screws, puts it down on the assembly line. This person puts the glue on it or whatever the fuck, puts it down on the assembly line. The next person attaches the other thing to the thing, puts it down. The next person puts it in a box. The next person wraps it in plastic, whatever the fuck it is. Every single person on that assembly line has a different job. Every job is kind of like equally important. And the final product cannot be made unless every person on the assembly line does their job, okay? So people have different roles, but it's not like you have anyone over anyone else. Every single part of the process is important. It's like different departments. This department does this department does that, this department does this other thing. It's not that one is more important than the other. It's just that they do different things. Let's get this super chat from Old Sub. There is no other chat like this chat. No other host interacts like Dr. K and other mods. We are a family, in my opinion. Thank you, Old Sub. I have tried to cultivate that painstakingly over the years, and I've sacrificed a much larger audience for it because we have to gatekeep our chat to make it a nice bastion of sanity on the internet. And I've banned a lot of people from this channel that maybe would have turned into supporters eventually because they were disrupting the chat and not following the rules. So I have painstakingly gate-kept my chat so that I don't go insane and that everyone has a nice experience. Okay. So back to this. So there are no official leaders on the left. However, there are people who are out there disseminating talking points around what they believe and where they are going next. If you want to know who the leaders on the left are, in my opinion, it's the 3 A's. The academics, the college professors that are indoctrinating students, the authors, the people who are writing the books, and the activists, the people who are actively organizing the chaos in our world. Now, a person can be one of those things, they can be 2 of those things, or they can actually be all 3 of those things at the same time. But the reason I say that the authors, the academics, and the activists are the leaders on the left is because they are the ones out there disseminating the message. They're doing talks at events. They're doing book launches. They're doing educational trainings. They're working in schools, universities, K through 12 schools. They're writing books that are being read out in the leftist ecosystem and published through places like Haymarket Books. There are a ton of socialist book publishers in the United States. Like, just off the top of my head, Haymarket Books, AK Press, PM Press, Pluto Press. What is the one that starts with the V? Oh shit, I can't remember the one that starts with the V. What is the socialist book publisher that starts with the V? Someone's going to be able to know that answer. W's James, thank you so much for the 10 gifted channel memberships, bro. I really do appreciate that. Veriso, thank you. Veriso, I knew Reagan would know the answer. Reagan, the top student in the class. Appreciate it, Reagan. And there's a bunch of other ones too. There's also zine-specific publishers. So you know how the left produces zines that is like their propaganda? There's actually specific zine publishers on the left. So there are all these different places that are publishing the books that the authors are writing. And then, of course, to get to the third A, because we covered academics, we covered authors, activists. The activists are out there communicating with each other, organizing these different events, organizing the different direct actions. They're the ones out there communicating. Guys, the most powerful people in any social systems are the ones that are expressive. This is something I used to teach when I was doing organizational psychology training, but it's totally, totally true. And this applies to your workplace as well. So I'm about to give you great advice for your workplace. For people, I used to be a corporate trainer, for people who don't know. Maybe someday I'll go back to corporate training because I'm really fucking good at it. But like one of the things I always used to teach when I was doing corporate training, the most powerful people in any room are the people who are expressive. The most powerful people in any organization, in any social system, are the ones who are expressive. What does that mean? They're the ones talking. They're the ones speaking up in meetings. They're the ones disseminating their ideas. They're the ones writing the books. They're the ones talking to people all over the place, saying, here's what we want to do and here's what we believe. Do you agree with us? Here are our values, and we think that this is a good idea. They are the ones that are expressive. Now, think about this in a workplace environment for a second. Think about, because people think in a workplace, it's like you have the organizational chart, right? You have like your boss and your boss's boss, and they're all above you. And then you have people under them, and you might have multiple people on the same level and all this stuff. In organizations, it seems as though there should be a hierarchy of people where it's very clear about the big boss is the most powerful person, and then the VP is the next most powerful person, and then the director, and then the manager, or whatever the fuck. It should be that way. However, it's not that way. Think about a workplace that you've been in where some asshole who no one even likes is always the one speaking up in the meetings. This guy doesn't have anyone reporting to him. This guy has a relatively low-level position, and yet he's always the person speaking up in meetings. And so he's always the one that has the attention on him, and his ideas, even if they're like not actually that good, get out there and people start going along with it at some point because he was the one who spoke up in the meeting. It doesn't matter what his rank is. It doesn't matter if he's underneath the boss. If the boss is silent, and this actually happens a lot of managers don't actually talk in meetings. Has anyone ever noticed this in your workplace? A lot of managers don't actually talk in meetings, and they give up all the power they have via their organizational position in the hierarchy because they're not talking. The other people are talking, so the other people are driving the conversation, and all of a sudden it doesn't matter what the rank of the person is. Their inclination to express what they want, express what they believe. If no one else is talking and no one else is putting ideas out there, then those are the people who are going to drive the conversation. Because ultimately, and a lot of people don't want to admit this, ultimately, people want to be led. Not every person, but a lot of people want someone else to step into a leadership role. Leadership roles are not granted via the title you have at a job. A leadership role is where you take responsibility for leading people. And a lot of people want someone else to step into that leadership role so they can follow along and have guidance and guardrails, and they know what they're supposed to do and they know what they're not supposed to do. And a lot of people feel much more comfortable in that position than they do in the leadership role. No, it's not that they're sheep. They're not sheep. No. Don't fucking insult them, because you're probably one of those people, by the way. They're not sheep. Some people are simply more comfortable not being the person to call the shots, but they're excellent workers, or they're excellent thinkers, or they're excellent doers. They just don't, like, they're not comfortable in that position. They can do something else highly effectively. It's not that they're sheep, it's just that they're good at other things. They have strengths that leaders don't have, okay? So when we're talking about the leftist ecosystem, it's kind of the same thing. There are people who end up in the roles where they are expressing the ideas, putting out the talking points, disseminating it out to the masses. And then there are people who follow along and implement those ideas. This is a very long-winded way of saying the reason that we pay particular attention to the socialist book publishers is because the socialist book publishers are publishing the authors, the academics, and the activists. So if you want to know what ideas are being disseminated on the left, if you want to know where things are going next, you have got to listen to the book publishers and the presentations that happen on the book publishers' social media, because this is what the left is consuming. This is what is driving leftist activism forward. And this is how we can predict what is going to happen next. And that is why people who watch my content where we are listening to the left directly, we are literally weeks, months, and sometimes years ahead of conservative influencers and commentators and pundits, because we listen to the people that are actually driving the messaging on the left. There's one more point I want to make about this, but we're going to get some super chats first. Are we still doing something fun on Friday? Yeah, Trendlin, we're going to watch the Whatever podcast on Friday. Okay, I have it on my desktop. We're going to watch What You Want on Friday. You did something I wanted you to do, and now we're going to watch it on Friday. Thank you, Trendlin. Thank you, Odin, for the super chat. Most groups I've worked with have very little hierarchy, and they choose a hierarchy of expertise and experience, whatever you're good at leading. Well, again, though, it's not about the people who inevitably end up influencing the rest. They're not usually the ones with the most experience. They're not usually the ones with the most expertise. They're the ones that are talking. If the people with expertise and experience are not talking, if the people with expertise and experience aren't sharing what they know, if they are holding back, if they're not putting their ideas out there, they are not going to end up in leadership positions. I promise you. And so it's like, I know people in an ideal world, it would be people with the expertise and the experience, but those people have to talk and they have to express themselves to actually be able to influence the discussion. But I do appreciate the super chat. Thanks so much. Another W for Chitalago in the chat with a gifted channel membership. Appreciate that very, very much, bro. Thank you. One more point I want to make about the leadership on the left as it pertains to the discussion that we're having today. I want you to notice I didn't name any names. I didn't say this person is a leader on the left, or this person is, or this person is, or this person is. I did not name a single name of people who are in leadership positions on the left. Why do you think that might be? Again, the leaders on the left, in my opinion, are the authors, the academics, and the activists. A person can be one of those things, a person can be two of those things, or a person can be all three of those things. But if you are one of those things, you're probably in some sort of like quote unquote leadership position. Why do you think I'm not naming specific names about like these are the people, even though we have names on the screen right now? Why am I not naming specific names? Because they don't operate on a hierarchy. Yup. Status in group equals the role in the group. Yes, that's a really good way to put it. Because it's ever changing. Yes, Tiffany, very good. Hey, thank you, James, for the $10 super chat. Fox News article on the Sunrise Movement plans leaked in March. We watched them here in January. Yeah. Fox News, breaking news exclusive, and then they covered something I literally covered in January. Yeah, we are literally months ahead of Fox News exclusives. It's like they're exclusives from Azra Nomani, who's probably watching my work and just copying it months after the fact. Yeah, that's like, what the fuck? What the breaking news, guys, the Sunrise Movement is doing noise protests nationwide. Oh, wait, we watched them plan that live in January. W. James on that catch. Thank you for that. Back to this. Another reason we don't name names, anyone can be removed from a leadership position at any time. So even if I said this person is a leader on the left, they might not be tomorrow. If they fuck up, if they start saying things that are problematic, they're going to be plucked right out of that leadership role, thrown away, and you will never hear from them again. So it really does depend. It is decentralized. It is bottom up, decentralized. It's very fluid. Yup. They are, let's see. Yeah. So that is the idea, guys. Like, the left really does operate as though people are a cog in a machine. Have you guys seen the movie Snowpiercer? 1 in the chat if you've seen Snowpiercer, 2 in the chat if you haven't. And while we're at it, can we give Axehead a big W for 5 channel memberships? Thank you so much, Axehead. Really, really appreciate it. Guys, 1 in the chat if you've seen the movie Snowpiercer, 2 in the chat if you haven't. Snowpiercer is a great fucking movie, by the way. I watched the TV show a little bit too. I didn't think the TV show was bad, but Snowpiercer is a great movie up until the end, and the end sucks, and it was really bad, and I hated it. I understand why they did it, but the end sucked. But Snowpiercer is a great fucking movie, okay? Basically, the whole idea on Snowpiercer is that people are stuck on this train, and it's going 1,000,000 miles an hour around the globe, and there has been an ice age in the world that has been unleashed. So the entire world is frozen, and everyone is dead except the people on this train, and the train doesn't freeze because the train just keeps moving around the world over and over and over again. And then there's different class systems on the train, and all sorts of weird shit happens, and it's a great movie. But like in the movie Snowpiercer, one of the things that happens is the train starts to break down. And so what they do is they go back to like the 3rd class cabin in the very back of the train, and they take children and they actually insert the children into the train to do the jobs, to be a cog in the machine where the train is starting to break down. And if those children get hurt or die, well, you pluck those children out, you put another child in its spot, and they don't think anything about it because they're taking them from the 3rd class cabin, which they basically don't consider to be people, and all that stuff, okay? In the movie Snowpiercer, the people are the cogs in the machine. It's a very intense movie, but it's a really good movie. But you know I like Reagan, you know I like weird, creepy stuff and torture porn and all that stuff. You know I like basically the weirdest and bloodiest and grossest movies, except for Sallow. Sallow sucks. Don't watch that. But like, you know the stuff I like, okay? With the leaders on the far left, it is also a cog in a machine. Everyone who is placed into an activist role is a cog in a machine. That cog can be taken out at any time and replaced with another cog. Every single person on the left, and you have to understand this to understand the left, every single person on the left is like a cog in the machine. They can be taken out at any time and replaced with someone else. Any author can be taken out at any time. They just won't publish their books anymore, and they replace them with someone else. Any academic can be removed from their role. Look at what happened to Ibram X. Kendi. Ibram X. Kendi started fucking up. Ibram X. Kendi started saying like really crazy shit over and over and over again. What did they do? Ibram X. Kendi lost his research center at Boston University because Ibram X. Kendi was no longer useful for them. So they plucked him out and threw him away, and then he got relegated to another school. Has anyone actually heard from Ibram X. Kendi recently? It's the same thing with Robin DiAngelo, by the way. Robin DiAngelo in 2020 was like the patron saint of the left. Robin DiAngelo was fucking everywhere. And then Robin DiAngelo got caught one too many times on video saying all white people are racist, which is not actually what the left believes. But Robin DiAngelo doesn't understand that because Robin DiAngelo is a crazy person. So Robin DiAngelo was lifted up and used as one of the main people on the left for years. And then she said too many problematic things, and they plucked her right out, and they threw her away, and they replaced her with other people. Has anyone actually heard from Robin DiAngelo recently? And by the way, it's not that Robin DiAngelo stopped talking, and it's not that she stopped publishing books. She's published other books, but no one's heard about them. I would try to find talks with Robin DiAngelo years ago. I was like, I wonder whatever happened to that crazy lady. You can't even find them now. Robin DiAngelo isn't even invited to events anymore. And so this is the point I want to make. It doesn't matter how big a name someone makes for themselves on the left. It doesn't matter how many books they publish. It doesn't matter how famous they are. If they start fucking up and they start getting in the way of what the left wants to achieve, they will pluck them out of that position, throw them away, replace them with another cog in the machine that will say the things that are required to advance the collectivist movement. It's really critical that if you want to understand the left, you've got to understand how this operates. It is non-hierarchical, but the people who are driving the message, if you aren't conforming to what the collective wants, you're not going to be in that role. You're going to throw you away and they're going to replace you with someone else. Okay? One in the chat if this makes sense to you. Two in the chat if you're confused. And if you're confused, please ask a question. Yes, the left is about the collective. They are not about the individual. They hate individualism, okay? Study group process for my class is adding an interesting dimension to my study of the left. Example, collectivist individuals have a different level of compliance to different types of social influence prompts, which is why part of individuals debunk won't work. Yup, that's very, very true. If you're debunking something from the perspective of an individualist, that's not going to work on a collectivist group. All right. Yup, we are the Borg. Exactly. Exactly. They are the Borg. Exactly right. All right. So with that in mind, the reason I did that really long preface is I haven't taught that concept in a while. I want to make sure people understand that, especially people who are newer. And it is directly relevant to the presentation we're going to be watching today because we are watching a presentation of socialist journalists on a socialist publishing website talking about how hard they have it as journalists under Trump. We're not spying today. We're going to be spying tomorrow. But this presentation was just recorded yesterday. So this is literally brand new. Not that many people have watched this presentation. This presentation only has 278 views on it so far. We're going to give it more than 278 views just in my stream today. You're welcome, Haymarket. Haymarket has me banned on their channel. I can't imagine why, but you're welcome. We are doing Spy Stream tomorrow, though. Yep, we are going to be doing it tomorrow. So you got to get a channel membership between now and then. Hopefully you get a channel membership today because you can't come to Spy Stream if you're not a supporter. So guys, we're going to be listening to socialist journalists complain. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting presentation. You saw the first 20 minutes of it, and we're going to listen to what they have to say. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it. We're going to listen for when they say the quiet part out loud and stuff like that. I think that is going to be really, really entertaining. $5, bro. Let's get a channel membership, or maybe someone will gift you a channel membership, and that would be bad. That would be awesome. $5, less than a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. Even Dunkin' Donuts, my beloved Dunkin' Donuts, because I'm in New England, even the beloved Dunkin' Donuts has surpassed the $5 cup of coffee. It's like, this is a sad, sad world. Thank you, Channel Logo, for the gifted channel membership. Really do appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. We're trying to get up to 100 gifted channel memberships on today's stream, guys. We are already 24% of the way there. How rad. How rad. Okay, so we're going to dig into this and watch it. Guys, as a reminder, if you are new to my work, the very best place to start is over on my Substack. That is Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. And you click on, I know this seems complicated, new to my work, start here. It might be confusing because I'm wearing makeup in this picture and I'm not right now. Don't be confused. It's okay. It's still me. And I want you to take the re-education class, an anti-communist introduction to the far left. And this is about a 90-minute course where I walk you through over a dozen clips from leftist trainings that I've recorded over the years to help you understand the language of the left. Because the left may use the same language as us, they do not use the same dictionary as us. We are not speaking the same language as the people we are going to watch today. You need to become fluent in the language that the left speaks in order to really understand them. This is very similar to learning a foreign language. People don't think of it this way because it sounds like the left is speaking English, but they are speaking a completely different dialect. I call it the language of socialist. If you get bored, or not get bored, you definitely won't get bored with this, but if you finish this 90-minute class, I actually have a 4-hour masterclass called How to Speak Socialist, okay? They might sound like they're speaking English. They are not using the same definitions of the words that you use. So one of the reasons that we watch far left training and videos like we're going to be watching right now, we are immersing ourselves within their language. It's like if you want to if you want to learn how to speak French, go live in France for 6 months. I mean, I know not everyone can do that, but hear me out. Just go immerse yourself in a French-speaking environment for 6 months. You will speak French by the end of it. So when we are listening to leftist trainings, we don't agree with these people. We are not on their team. We are immersing ourselves in their language in order to become fluent in what they think and what they believe. And that is why we are so far ahead of everyone else in our analysis, because conservative influencers and commentators have no fuck off clue what the left is talking about in these presentations. They truly have no clue. They have no clue what the left believes. Most of them are completely unhinged from reality because they don't listen. So that is why we do this. We are listening to understand. We're listening to break down the language, listen to the strategies, listen for when they say the quiet parts out loud. And in order to do that, we listen to the trainings from start to finish. Again, if you are new and you need an introduction to the language, this is going to be your best friend. Okay? That is a really quick start. Takes 90 minutes of your time, totally free. If you want to become a member on Substack to support that, that would be rad. You can become a paying supporter over there, monthly or annual, and that's awesome. And I so appreciate everyone who's supporting my work on Substack. You guys rock just as much as people supporting it on YouTube. But please use the resource if you have not already. All right. Last thing. I feel like the Gucci sunglasses I have in this beautiful velvet box is one of the nicest sunglasses box that I have. It's beautiful velvet. I feel like with all the vintage frame stuff, the Gucci Willy Wonka sunglasses, I feel like they haven't gotten the respect that they deserve. I feel like these amazing Gucci Willy Wonka sunglasses that I got off eBay for $40, they haven't gotten the respect they deserve on the channel. So today, we're having a Willy Wonka sunglass day. And I fucking love these. I think these are funny as hell. And they're awesome, and I love them. And so we're having a Willy Wonka sunglass day on the channel today. I love them. I think they're funny. I think they look cool. Anyway, let's dig in. Now that I have these sunglasses on, let's dig in. If you guys have questions as we are making our way through the stream today, please do ask them. Why don't I have my Rumble chat on the screen? Why don't I have my Rumble chat on the screen? Now I do. Now I can see you, Rumble. Apologies for not having it on the screen earlier. There we go. Now I can see Rumble. All right, guys. We are watching Left Media Under a Hostile Regime. Everyone, please make sure to mount the like button if you would be so kind. Everyone, make sure you have subscribed to the channel if you have not already. And let's get this party started.
We
Oh, it was a
for
live
more
presentation.
information about additional events. We publish books. We do a whole bunch of events like this.
Yo,
It's a cultural
hey, little bits. I want to say thank you for the subs on Kick. I know that I don't pay a ton of attention to the Kick chat because usually there's not many people over there. And I don't get notifications when you give subs to the channel, but I had to fix something on my Kick account yesterday. And I logged in and I was like, there's 2 subs here. I was like, who the fuck donated these subs? And it was a little bit. So thank you for holding down the fort over on Kick, little bits. Thank you for the subs that you donated. I really do appreciate it, bro. Fighting the good fight in an empty chat over on Kick that just gets spammed with people and stuff like that. But, like, I just stream it to Kick because I don't have to do anything. If people want to watch on Kick, you're welcome to watch on Kick,
space that we hope brings people together, and we're really glad to have everybody here. Before we begin the program, we do want to acknowledge that Haymarket House events take place on the occupied lands of the councils of the Three Fires,
Land blessing!
Ojibwa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi, the indigenous keepers of the land, who through acts of genocide, deceit, and dispossession were forcibly removed for the founding of the city of Chicago and the city of Illinois. We recognize the nations that lived in and around Illinois and stand in solidarity with them in their ongoing struggles. We also want to acknowledge that settler colonialism is not relegated to the history of the past, but continues today, and we stand in solidarity with the people of Gaza and all those around the world who are experiencing genocide and dispossession at the hands of imperialist governments like the United States. We're living in pretty dark times, obviously, and we think that coming together in community spaces like this is really important for sustaining our struggles and the efforts that everybody's engaged in to change the world for the better. All that can feel very overwhelming and challenging, so things like this and spaces like this feel quite crucial. When we and those we love face an uncertain future and many continuing attacks, it really is spaces like this, rooms like this one, filled with people like us that create bright spots in that darkness. And thank you for coming out and participating in that. We want to thank everybody for coming along. And I'm not going to hold things up any further. I'll just introduce the panel and get started on our programming.
Oh, you're on Kick now too, Alex?
We are going to be doing a panel on left media in time of crisis, under growing authoritarianism, and all the other challenges that we're facing. And I thought that the way that we could...
I just want to note, I know there are people in the chat who like closed captions. Closed captions are not available for this. Otherwise, I would totally turn them on. So I apologize for that. Not my fault.
Start off would be to just have everybody who represents different projects, different aspects of left media, talk about what their projects are, their publications, who they are, so everybody can become a little bit more familiar. And we're going to do it lightning round. It's your elevator pitch. So I think we can start with Daniel. And yeah, it's being live stream, but
check.
There's no amplification. But
I got you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Hey, y'all. I'm Daniel Kisslinger. He, him pronouns. I'm the co-founder and co-creator of Respire Production and Media. We're a movement journalism and media organization based here in Chicago, building works in partnership with, support of, and in community with people reshaping public life and building collective liberation. Our flagship show is called Ergo, AIRGO. For the last 10 plus years, Dave and I have been interviewing movement workers and organizers, change makers, space makers here in Chicago and beyond about the how and why behind their work to build a living, comprehensive archive. And that's available wherever you get your pods.
I'm Damon, the other co in the founding of the thing that he just said so very well. We're going to keep this elevator quick and keep it moving, but I'm Damon Williams, co-founder of Respire Production Media, co-host of Ergo.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Maya Shenwar. I'm director of the Truth Out Center for Grassroots Journalism.
Oh!
And Truth Out is a daily social justice news organization. You should read us instead of the New York Times. Appear in your inbox every day. And the Truth Out Center for Grassroots Journalism is a kind of project of Truth Out that works to support and develop collaborations between organizations in different parts of the movement media, because it's a time that it's really, really important for us to strengthen that ecosystem, keep building it, and keep growing this network that we have so that we can rise up, defeat fascism. eventually you just, I guess, sit on the beach drinking cocktails.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's how it's
I
gonna
don't
work
know how
out.
to end
Yeah.
that. Here, do.
My name is Bhaskar Sankara. I'm the president of The Nation magazine, which was founded in 1865 by abolitionists and is a left liberal
Oh,
magazine.
bro. There
I'm
are,
all
and I know average person knows this, but this is more for other people's benefit. There are so many different socialist media organizations. There are so many different socialists, like websites and publications and things like that. Not just the anarchist stuff that we watched yesterday. And again, I know average person knows this, but like even stuff that is like framed as being more mainstream. And it's one of those things where the right for as long as ever since I got thrust into a political spotlight, I have heard the right talk about we need to build parallel systems, we need to build parallel economies, we need to build parallel publishers, and then they never do shit and it never goes anywhere, or they build stupid platforms like Truth Social that only boomers use, or Getter. I haven't been on Getter in fucking forever. I haven't been on Getter in forever. I haven't even logged into the website. I have no idea what's going on over there. They build these platforms that no one actually uses. The left has all of these media organizations that go viral all the fucking time on social media that are doing all this coverage. They have their own book publishers. They have their own magazines. They have their own series of bookstores. That's one of the maps we're going to make of the modern left, is mapping out all the far left bookstores in the country and stuff like that. They have an entirely separate ecosystem. The left the left actually built the parallel ecosystem that the right always threatened to. Come on, play.
also the founding editor of Jacobin magazine, which is a socialist publication,
Jacobin!
and the publisher of Catalyst, a Marxist journal, and Book Forum, a kind of magazine, a quarterly of like literary criticism.
I was thinking about that one.
I know you do. I
too
know you do,
sometimes.
Reagan. I know. I know.
My name's Ari Bloomkatz. I was recently stepped into the role of interim executive director at In These Times magazine. We have our flagship
In These
product.
Times, another
It's In
socialist
These Times
magazine.
We're a nearly 50-year-old organization, and right now we're really exploring how we get not only to this marker of 50 years, but how we're going to prepare for 50 more afterwards. We were founded specifically in Chicago by James Weinstein and a group of other socialists and radicals.
Oh, yeah?
And we continue that tradition today.
Awesome. I have my own microphone as moderator. So I'm John McDonald. I introduced myself before. I'm from Haymarket Books. I'm moderating tonight. I do a number of things here at Haymarket. Right. I'm going to ask a couple of broad questions, and we're going to be fairly conversational.
And just in case you guys didn't catch this earlier, this event is taking place at Haymarket House in Chicago, which is Haymarket Books' private event venue. Is there any organization on the conservative right that has their own private event venue where they regularly hold right-leaning events and speaker series and stuff like that in any location? Forget even major city. This fucking thing is in the middle of Chicago. Chicago's one of the most socialist cities in the country. Haymarket Books, largest socialist book publisher in the United States, has their own fucking private event venue in the middle of Chicago. Is there any right? Why doesn't CPAC have their own event venue where they're regularly bringing conservative speakers? Why doesn't Turning Point USA have their own private event venue? I'm not talking about an office space. I'm talking about a private event venue where they are regularly holding conservative talks and bringing conservative speakers and live streaming it all over the fucking internet. Why doesn't anyone on the right do this? If the socialist left can figure this out, there is no excuse There is no excuse.
and then open some time for you all to ask questions of the panel.
Yo, thank you, old
And the
sub.
place that I want to start
W's.
is a nice, happy one, but I think that's an important context, which is about the crisis of journalism and kind of media in general. Like over the course of the last 20 years, maybe even a little bit longer, you've seen the closing of one after another publications, laying off of increasing numbers of folks, pivots to different forms. Generally speaking, the whole ecosystem of the media and journalism in particular feels like it's under siege. And so I'm just curious for all of you to talk about how that impacts what you all do, how you think about it, and kind of what we as a left and movement spaces should think about that context. Very simple, straightforward. Anybody wants to go for it, just go for it.
Well, I'm holding the microphone, so I guess I think about that question a little bit differently these days. Like we can go on and on about all of the various reasons print media, mass media, independent media is struggling. What I'm more curious about right now is where we as independent media can not only contest for power when there are these like withdrawals, but where we can actually take space. And there's some like really interesting ways to like think about like that contesting for power and where that can happen, right? So a lot of publications like have stopped doing news rack sales, things like that, right? In Italy, I stumbled upon a bunch of radicals who are doing pop-up rack sales, all over, things like that. That spatial power, that's real. That is a place that has been abandoned by a lot of mass media that we can step in and take. And this sort of dynamic occurs all over the place. There are places that they have to cede because they are withdrawing, because they are consolidating, and because they don't have that right now. And so I've been thinking a lot, okay, so how can we leverage not only our own publications, but work in collaboration with others to do real contesting for power? One of my favorite examples of this was at the DNC here in Chicago, in which in these times, Truth Out, and The Nation was involved as well, The Real News, and some other publications came together to create a DNC-specific newsletter that was designed to break through the noise of all of the press releases and everything that was coming. This is a daily operation that did this, right? I found that really interesting. Same with October 7th anniversaries. We got together with this new formation called MAD, Media Against Apartheid and Displacement. And we said to ourselves, how can we disrupt what is surely coming on October 7th, which is going to be the justification of genocide? And we came up with a whole number of strategies that could actually do disruption there. And this is what I find really interesting.
Okay,
right
I want
now.
to be really clear what they're talking about here for people who are new. This guy who works for a socialist publication called In These Times teamed up with, and again, this is in Chicago, the DNC, the Democratic National Convention in 2024 was in Chicago, okay? This socialist magazine teamed up with other socialist groups in order to take what happened at the DNC and release some sort of newsletter that was not supporting the DNC. They were not supporting the Democrats. They were saying, here's why this is all bullshit and wrong and bad, what is coming out of the DNC, because these people do not support the Democrats. They didn't like Kamala Harris. They didn't vote for Kamala Harris. These were people that were literally protesting the DNC. They were doing demonstrations outside of it. So that's what he's talking about. They're not sending out newsletters and emails in support of them. They don't support them. They're basically trying to take all of the bullshit that was happening at the DNC, and they actually did what Republicans probably should have done, which is to do some sort of daily newsletter or breakdown. Here are all the lies that were told at the DNC, because they were working against the Democrats. They were not working for the Democrats. Does everyone understand this? We'll go back and listen again. Yeah, they were protesting the DNC. Who would have thunk it? Oh, wait, we watched it live on the internet.
And because they don't have that right now. And so I've been thinking a lot, okay, so how can we leverage not only our own publications, but work in collaboration with others to do real contesting for power? One of my favorite examples of this was at the DNC here in Chicago, in which in these times, Truth Out, and The Nation was involved as well, The Real News, and some other publications came together to create a DNC specific newsletter that was designed to break through the noise of all of the press releases and everything that was coming. This is a
See?
daily operation that did this, right? I found that really interesting. Same with October 7th anniversaries. We got together with this new formation called MAD, Media Against Apartheid and Displacement. And we said to ourselves, how can we disrupt what is surely coming on October 7th, which is going to be the justification of genocide? And we came up with a whole number of strategies that could actually do
Yeah, the
disruption.
non-binary wing.
And this is what I find really interesting right now, which is like, what are the possibilities?
Yeah, I think absolutely true. And building on what Ari said, so both of those collaborations, I think, came out of a larger force that has been building over the last 3 years, I would say, among movement media, that I think is an exciting place to think about power. And we talk a lot about media
Movement media.
consolidation on the
Movement
right
media.
and in the center. And some of us a few years ago started thinking, like, what's the equivalent on the left? It's not consolidation. It's not monopolies. It's not like suddenly one of us wins the lottery and buys like work. Although I had bought so many scratch tickets in the interest of that. And
One day.
I won $40 once at a 7-Eleven. But
See,
All
this
right, well-
okay, bro, I don't mean to make you feel bad, but this is a conservative retard comment. I just can't stand listening to them talk. They all talk the same and they all talk like they had crazy amounts of therapy. No. No. They are speaking a different language than you that you do not understand because you refuse to listen to them talk. You have no idea what they're saying. You have no idea what their values are. You have no idea what their beliefs are. You are not listening to what they are saying because, I'm sorry, you're such a massive pussy that you can't sit on your ass, shut the fuck up, and listen for like more than 15 minutes without complaining. You want to know why conservatives and right-leaning people will literally never defeat the left? Conservatives and right-leaning people can't shut the fuck up and listen for more than 15 minutes without having an emotional meltdown about like the fact that they don't understand what they're listening to. No offense, bro. If you listen to more of what they're saying, you'll understand it more and it'll be a far less painful experience.
Come on over. But in the absence of that, we thought, okay, like they have money, they have kind of a certain type of political power, they have these monopolies. But on the left, we have relationship building. You know, we have
True.
in our
Very
principles and
true.
our values, relationships are supposed to be these things that we really
That was a
value
Laura
and
Loomer
hold
freeze
dear. But something that wasn't happening so much among left media
Yeah.
was actually building relationships.
We got a super chat from the illustrious average person. We're gonna have to map out their news networks too, aren't we? Yeah, we are. Yeah. This is why this is such a problem. This is why this is like not an easy fucking project. At this point, you know what I might have to do? I can't believe I just thought of this. Hang on, let me finish this super chat, but then I'll tell you what I just realized. At this point, the only definitive non-socialist institution is the bank and the cops. And the cops. I already have some of it on a list too. You know what we have to do? We're going to have to assign specific point people to mapping out different parts of the left. So we're going to have like people in charge of like You are mapping out the bookstore network. You are mapping out the publisher network. You are mapping out the media network. You are mapping out the Party for Socialism and Liberation and all their different event centers. Like getting like hyper niche in this shit, because it's like when people try to do everything, as I've tried to do, as Reagan has tried to do, as many other people in the community has tried to do, what happens is you end up with like 750 massive spreadsheets, and it all has really useful information in it, but it's like it's all jumbled up, and it's like everything it's like it's extremely difficult to take all that and assimilate. Yeah, unions. Awesome. So that's what we have to do. We have to start establishing point people for I cannot believe I didn't think of this until now. You're mapping out this specific thing. Just do a deep dive into this thing and find as many of these organizations as you can related to this thing, and then map them out. And then if you find other stuff along the way, put it in a separate spreadsheet. We'll fucking deal with it later. That's what we have to do.
With each other. We were doing a lot of like secretiveness, we were doing a lot of competition, and all of us were struggling. And
Yes,
so
boy, babe.
I guess
Yo,
it was 3
Cowboy!
years ago at this
Good
point.
to see you, bro. W's.
A few of us
Thank
came
you,
together
Cowboy.
in these times, Convergence, Truth Out, and the Real News Network, and we started talking about what would it take to actually collaborate in a way that supports all of us. And we started building the Movement Media Alliance, out of which came MAD, Media Against Apartheid and Displacement. And through that, we've done all kinds of things: fundraising, supporting each other in digital security building, supporting each other in legal protections as fascism rises, coming together to get to know each other and do collaborations, having a shared Slack where we can put funny memes.
Slack.
Definitely like
Who even uses
when a
Slack?
one-off terrible thing happens, kind of like having those relationships that we've strengthened so we can ping each other and like share expertise and skill share, which I think is this thing that really gets lost when you're living in your silo without admitting it. So I think these are sources of power for independent media. And as we move forward, I think remembering that there are sources of power that
I understand why you're saying that. I'm at a place right now. We may get to that point eventually. Right now, I'm keeping things pretty close to the chest, because the thing that's hard about what we're trying to do is the only people who can really help me do this are the people who, at least at the level that we're at right now, are the people who have achieved a pretty high level of expertise in a certain area, so they know what they're looking at, whereas a lot of people right now, they don't know what they're looking at yet. So we may get to this at some point. We're not there right this second, because we have to continue to build the level of expertise required in order to do some of this stuff. And it is really just one of those things where it's like, I need people who are fluent in the language of socialists. Right now, I have a lot of people who are beginner level. I have a lot of people who are intermediate level. I have some people that have an advanced level understanding. I need people who have been speaking the language of socialists for a while, who have gone undercover at socialist things, who understand, who have read their zines, read their propaganda, who understand what this stuff looks like on site, without even thinking about it, like it's second nature to them. That's where I'm kind of starting right this second. And it's like I know a lot of people want to help, and everyone will be able to help at some point, but the data integrity of what we're trying to do is like really fucking important to me. We are still at step 1. Yeah, it's like, you know what? Listen. We have a fuck ton of data. The data is not the problem of it. The data, like the amount of information that we have, that's not the problem. The problem is figuring out how to put it together in a way that makes the most sense and allows us to build and scale. That's what it is. And that's why this is taking longer than I wanted to, because it's just, I know, I feel like we're on the precipice of this with the whole no kings thing. We're right fucking there, but figuring out the data management issue has been a lot. We have too much fucking data. We don't have enough. We have too fucking much. Thank you, Andre, for the super chat. They are doing secretiveness for decades, and Cash just said he has counterintel. Wait, what? Cash Patel says he has counterintelligence and espionage division, and they have no idea what the left is doing. Really think about this, guys. Really think about this. We know more. Hey, thanks, Alex, for the. Did you just sub over on Kick? Did Alex just send a sub on Kick? May as well sub on this platform too. I don't even know how to tell. Alex sub! Yay! Thank you for the sub on Kick, Alex. I appreciate that. I will add that to our total here. If you sub on Kick, tell me, because I don't see it pop up on my screen. But Alex did it, and I was just looking at it. Okay, so back to this. Yeah. So everyone, just keep in mind, we know more than the FBI does about what the left is doing, and they have a whole counterintelligence and espionage division, and we just have presentations on the internet. No fucking way. Are you serious? Are you fucking serious? Trump is doing a global Antifa forum this summer? Are you fucking serious? Okay. Well, we'll see how that goes for him. We'll see how that goes. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Are not money and influence and have to do with connecting with other human beings is going to be a really important thing.
So I think of this question in crisis.
Yeah, I'll be secret Antifa again for a while. Yeah.
Can be located in a few different ways. I want to acknowledge, that over my lifetime, but probably the last two and a half generations, the real consolidation and retraction of just the industry of information, of communication, and how that's like affecting our society at large. But then when you ask the question of like how this crisis then shows up for us doing what we call movement media, that for me, it takes a little bit. One, don't really come to this seat through traditional channels of journalism. And so there is a precarity that in our partnership as this like emergent project that was kind of understood of what we were entering into. And I recognize how that retraction from, a really invested, like I go to J school, I get my job, I have my career, and that is dissolving in front of people's eyes. That's causing real issue, but also real angst. And I think, we show up from different locations, but I show up less as a journalist and more in the movement media of the movement side. And so for me, it's actually very familiar and parallel what this larger project is, because this left-leaning, media that we're talking about is explicitly anti-capitalist. And so coming to this work, communicating.
All of the media that we're talking about are explicitly anti-capitalist. Imagine my shock. They've created an entire anti-capitalist media network.
In the movement media of the movement side. And so for me, it's actually very familiar and parallel to what this larger project is, because this left-leaning, media that we're talking about is explicitly anti-capitalist. And so coming this work, communicating about this work from an anti-capitalist liberatory movement,
anti-capitalist liberatory movement, mutual aid,
cultural and arts, programming.
Guys, anytime you hear the left say liberation or see something like a liberation center, what they mean by liberation is to free themselves from the oppressive bounds of capitalism. Okay, That's what they mean. That's why he says anti-capitalist liberatory movement. The liberation is always from the capitalist system. Yo, thank you, Tayton. Happy birthday. Thanks for being you and not a bullshit artist. Hey, I do my best, Tayton. It's good to see you. Really appreciate the super chat. Not quite my birthday. That's on Sunday, but that's okay. I'll take an early birthday.
Larger project is, because this left-leaning media that we're talking about is explicitly anti-capitalist. And so coming to this work, communicating about
That's
this
a
work
cigarette,
from
by the way.
an anti-capitalist
Don't do
liberatory
drugs, kids.
movement, mutual aid projects are also in precarity. Cultural and arts, programming that is done on a volunteer basis is also in precarity. So I feel much more in line in solidarity and actually privileged to be doing this as a profession, as a job, as a vocation. And so, there's the same contradiction of what does it mean to be overly reliant on or dependent on the nonprofit system to hold up your work, and like similarly for movement
Antifa
organizations,
Summit article.
what does
Thank
that
you.
mean for us making media or making this work to communicate or express about the movement? And the answer for me in both spaces is the investment of the people that
Just take a look at this. Let's just take a look at this. The Trump administration is organizing an international summit focused on countering the left-wing movement Antifa and other groups, 3 sources familiar with the matter said. An effort that highlights the shift in the government's counterterrorism, blah, blah, blah. The conference, tentatively planned for June or July, will convene officials from various nations to discuss strategies for battling Antifa and encourage intelligence sharing, said the sources, who requested anonymity. Is that it? Oh. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm sure that's going to go real well. I'm sure nothing's going to go wrong with that plan at all. It's going to be a great idea. Hey, thanks, OC, for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Thanks, Tayton. Wow, chat. She's trying to say she's a couple days younger because birthday is not until I am a couple days younger, Tayton. But like, fuck you. Thank you for the money, but I am perpetually 29, as you know. Oh yeah, Antifa. Thank you, Tate. I don't mean to insult you, Tate. You know I'm joking. Yeah, Antifa's laughing their asses off at this. Like we should. No, we'll watch it live. We will watch if they live stream any of that shit. We'll sit there and watch the whole thing and fucking laugh at all of it. Yeah, I'm 28 right now. That's exactly right. I'm 28.
See this as more than a product. That are, we are not looking for a consumer base. We are also not looking for shareholders. We are looking for people who see themselves as partners in creating and building this new world, and bringing these truths together,
exactly.
and talking about abolition, and talking about environmental justice, and talking about liberatory artwork. The people that want to see that happen, that want to see an ecosystem around that, and then the institutions that are invested in that is who we see ourselves trying to partner with. And so we are experiencing this crisis differently while observing our whole society is crumbling, but that I don't think is specific to journalism.
Yeah, that what you just said at the end is exactly where my head was at, is like, if we understand this retrenchment as part of the like dissolution of industry, then it actually, I think with very good reasons, this kind of concern about what this means for information industry
No. Thank you, Jen. Sincerely, I appreciate the thought, and I know you mean well. Just know that people in the Trump administration know who I am. I am not an unknown quantity at all. They know who I am. They could reach out to me literally at any time for help, and I would go and talk to them and help them. There's nothing stopping them, and hasn't been for years, except that they don't like the things I say, and I don't support Israel. And because I don't support Israel, they will never ask for my help ever. And to be quite frank, I, right now, don't really want to help them. I would help them if they reached out and asked me to, because I have always said that no matter what, if someone is serious about doing stuff to counter the left, I will work with them. I don't care if we disagree on every other issue. I don't care if you're a Zionist, if you are actually serious about defeating the left. The problem is that has never worked out well coming from people who disagree with me about Israel. It has literally never worked out well. Never. And I've tried over and over and over again for years. So, no, I would rather watch them flounder about on the internet and then debunk them publicly and then talk about all the reasons they don't know what the fuck is literally, and we all know this would happen. If I was ever invited to something like that, I would have to go out of an ethical obligation. But we all know that if this happened, I would end up yelling at Trump and calling him a retard. And I would probably end up yelling at Trump and calling him a retard live on the internet. And even though that would probably be one of the actually, you know what? Actually, I fucking take it back. If I ended up yelling at Trump and calling him a retard live on the internet for everyone to see, I would instantly become a hero for like half the fucking country. Actually, that would be amazing. Actually, so can someone please give me an invite to this event so I can yell at him and so I can yell at Trump and call him a retard all over the internet? I would instantly be like the most favored person in all of politics. Notorious fascist calls Trump a retard. Yeah, okay, that needs to happen now, I think. I'll take that bullet for all of you. You're welcome.
President and gets a lot of airtime because that's who gets to write the articles. But I think in some ways, and I see this a little bit less now, but I think over the last decade, I've watched this kind of like exceptionalizing that sometimes happens with journalists, where it's like this is this, unique phenomenon happening in our newsrooms, and it's much more like, well, if you view, and this is where the unionization efforts I thought actually were really in a lot of newsrooms around the country really helpful, is if you shift from like, oh, we are representatives of the fourth estate to, oh, we are workers trying to figure out how to do our jobs and live with dignity and provide something useful to our neighbors, then we're actually part of this larger movement that's not just, oh no, our industry, it's collapsing. It's, oh no, we're experiencing like structural decay, and what are we all going to do about it together?
Yeah, I want to come back to a thread that both Maya and Damon touched on about the sustainability.
This is actually not a bad idea. This is you know what we should do? Could this be okay? We would have to get our shit together very quickly for this, but I feel like if I was motivated to do this, I totally could. I got it. This is, I'm going to take the glasses off because like I feel like I'm saying serious things and people are not going to take me seriously if I'm wearing Willy Wonka glasses. I might switch over to new glasses. I don't know. I feel like people can't take me seriously when I look like Willy Wonka. What if we held the first Occupy Libraries event in whatever location Trump had this fucking Antifa conference, and we frame it as like, the White House doesn't know what they're talking about. You want to come learn about the real far left? You come here. And then we film that shit. And yeah, like we do some sort of like, that could actually be awesome. That's actually might be a good idea.
Before doing that, I actually want to continue building where, Daniel ended, which is about the role of media, journalism, various other projects in building a habitable left and interacting with movements specifically. So I'm curious how you all think of that. I want to have Oscar, if you could respond to this in particular, and some of the
I'm gonna put
you'll
on
go where you're
different
gonna go, but
sunglasses.
part of the reason I wanted to direct it
I'm
at
gonna
you
put
is
on
because of the
these.
fact that you straddle so many different
These are a little bit
aspects
more
of,
professional, Willy Wonka.
like you said, the left liberal to the socialist left. And how do you think about navigating some of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that publications can do different things, and even the same publication like Jacobin contains.
The Library
You
of
say
Congress.
Jacobin publishes 3 different types.
There we go.
Of
Oh, that's
articles.
better. That's more professional.
The first part is more agitational. So articles that are about
be fucking
the
cool.
existing injustices being produced
Mhm.
by capitalism and other forces in
Capitalism!
our society. And that's meant to agitate people, obviously also to educate them, but you could say broadly to raise the level of class consciousness. And non-socialist publications can do that too. So this is going to sound very dogmatic, but it's
Okay.
an easy way to
I want to make sure people understand the language. What does this guy mean when he says one of the things that socialist publications do is they're trying to raise the level of class consciousness? 1 in the chat if you know what that means. 2 in the chat if you don't know what that means. One of the things they're trying to do is raise the level of class consciousness. 1 in the chat if you understand what that means. 2 in the chat if you don't understand what that means. It's okay not to understand. I'm just trying to gauge the knowledge level of people in the room. If you don't understand, it's okay to say it. I really do mean that. Don't be embarrassed or anything like that. Thank you, Jan. I appreciate it. B-Day super chat for Karlyn, hoping this happens. Karlyn yelling at Trump would be epic. It'd be fucking everything. Be fucking everything. Okay, we do have a couple 2s in the chat, and like, you know, way to go, guys, in admitting that you don't know, because like that's just part of the learning process. You're not dumb for not knowing this. I just want to make sure that people understand what we're talking about. So, raising the level of class consciousness is critical to recruiting and radicalizing more people to the far left. This is why it's so important that people understand that not everyone on the left is a socialist or communist. Hang on 1 second. I'm loading my map of the modern left. Just taking a second because for some reason my website is loading slow. There it is. Okay. The map of the modern left is this. And you can find this at mapping at decodetheleft.com/map. I'm trying to make this bigger, but it's not doing what I want it to do. Well, I guess it's not going to make it bigger. Okay, well, we just have to stick with that. Okay, so there are 5 different, this is my taxonomy for how I understand the left and the different groups on the left. There are 5 different groups on the left. Tier 1 is Democrats. Tier 2 is liberals. Tier 3 is progressives. Tier 1 through 3 support the capitalist system. Democrats are more corporatists. Liberals don't want to overthrow capitalism. They just want things more and fair. They believe in equality, not equity. The far left does not believe in equality. The far left believes in equity. Liberals believe in equality. They still believe in individualism. They still believe in capitalism. Progressives want to go right up to the line of overthrowing capitalism. Like they want a lot of free stuff from the government, much more than Democrats and liberals do. But they don't want to actually abolish the capitalist system. They just want to go right up to the line and get a lot of free shit from the government. That is the normie left, okay? Democrats, liberals, and progressives have not awoken to class consciousness. They are still asleep when it comes to class consciousness. In order to recruit them into tier 4 or 5, what needs to happen is they need to be awoken to class consciousness. That means they become aware that they are part of an oppressed class, that they will always be part of an oppressed class as long as capitalism exists, because capitalism creates all oppression. And the only way to not be oppressed by the system that is currently in place is to overthrow the capitalist system. That is what tier 4 wants to do with democratic socialists, and that is what tier 5 wants to do with revolutionary socialists. They just have different ideas about how to do it. Democratic Socialists want to do that by getting elected to positions in government and making small reforms over time that lead to a post-capitalist society. Revolutionary Socialists do not believe in elections. They don't vote in elections. They believe in violently overthrowing the system. But what I need to do an update to this chart where I lay all this stuff out. Tier 1 through 3 still believes in capitalism. That means they have not been awoken to class consciousness, whereas the job of tier 4 and 5 is to awaken as many people as possible to the fact that they are oppressed under capitalism so that they become awoken to their class consciousness. They become aware they're part of an oppressed class. That is the only way to radicalize more people out to the far left. So therefore, when you watch these presentations with leftists and they're talking about we have to awaken class consciousness, that's what they're talking about. They're saying the only way we can get people from A to B is if they become self-aware of the system that is oppressing everyone. Okay? Right now they're not. That's what they're talking about. Does everyone understand that? 1 in the chat if you understand that. 2 in the chat if you're still confused. Yeah, well, abolishing capitalism means no more money. So you could still play poker. You could still play poker. You could just do like poker chips and, you aren't actually exchanging money. You could still do it just for fun, like playing a video game.
To think about it, I promise I'm not, at home reading the Little Red Book and memorizing.
You sound more like that one Russian guy.
Yeah.
Let's just go back a little bit so you can hear it again.
Our society. And that's meant to agitate people, obviously also to educate them, but you could say broadly to raise the level of class consciousness.
Their goal is to raise the level of class consciousness. It doesn't matter if you don't see how it will work. What matters is the left believes that it will work. It doesn't matter if you agree with them. Your feelings on this are not relevant. You've got to get used to that in order to understand this. Your feelings, your opinions are not relevant. The only thing that matters is what the left believes. That is what we're talking about here.
And non-socialist publications can do that too. So this is going to sound very dogmatic, but it's an easy way to think about it. I promise I'm not, at home reading the Little Red Book and memorizing.
You sound more like that one Russian guy.
Yeah. But I think it is important to know that there's a wide variety of publications that can raise the level of class consciousness, but have this class understanding, or this understanding of kind of
exactly
of inequities that
the left has never recruited more people than they have under Donald Trump's presidency. That's just reality. 100% correct.
That drive much of the world. So individual injustices, but then also connect those individual injustices to a broader system. Then even a publication like Jacobin publishes another type of article that most publications, even other left-wing publications, don't publish, which are articles that point to an alternative to the current system, to different models of socialism, to a better world.
This is an interesting question. Do I think the left is primarily composed of tiers 3, 4, and 5? I actually think yeah, actually, yeah. Yes, I do agree with that. Yeah. I think today's left, today's activist left. Now there may be like normie Democrats and liberals that are just like voting Democrat all the time, like whatever. But they're not the left that I'm concerned with, W Liberty, thank you so much for the gifted channel membership. Really appreciate it. Hang on, let me add that to the tally. The people on the left that I personally am concerned with, or am the most concerned with, are the people who are out there doing activism and trying to recruit and radicalize people to the far left. That is like the very specific segment that I'm concerned with. I'm not concerned with normie Democrats who maybe watch a little too much CNN, but really they're not really doing anything politically. They're going to work, they have their job. They have lefty beliefs. I'm thinking of like my mother, okay? And it's like my mother's not out being a political activist. My mother is an older lady who has always been a lefty, and she listens to the news she listens to, and she has beliefs she has, and I just have to let her talk when she wants to tell me about them. And she hates it when I go on Fox News because she thinks it's the enemy and like all this stuff. She'll say, "Oh, Karlyn, that's really cool, but Fox sucks," or like whatever. It's like you just have to let them talk. My mother's not politically active. My mother's not out there trying to make change. She's not going to protest. She goes in, she checks Democrat, like whatever. Okay. That is not the type of person that I'm worried about. I think there are a lot of those people. I'm not worried about liberals that just want things to be fair and like, all this stuff. Like, I'm not worried about these people. I am worried about the activist left. And the activist left is primarily composed of progressives, democratic socialists, and revolutionary socialists. These are the people out there trying to make something happen. They're working at an activist organization, they're doing organizing, they're writing all these books, spreading their beliefs. They're teaching classes at universities and in K through 12 schools. They're doing the protesting. Democrats and liberals are not out there protesting all the time, guys. That's just not true. It's progressives, democratic socialists, and revolutionary socialists. And so, like, there may numerically be more like normie Democrats and liberals, but the thing of it is, even if there are more numbers wise, their impact is not as great as the activists left, which is why I'm primarily worried about the ones that are actually out there doing stuff. I hope that makes sense. So that was actually a really astute chat, old sub, because yes, those are the groups that we are primarily concerned with. And progressives, because they're organizing all these huge protests, but also progressives are the easiest to recruit and radicalize to the far left once they get sick of the Democratic Party bullshit. Good question.
World that we can get to. And throughout the left, this has been, something common to both the socialist movement and anarchists have often both criticized capitalism and also presented kind of, in my view, desirable visions of
like
an alternative.
PYT, yeah.
I think what the socialist movement has excelled at is the third kind of category of articles, which are, strategy, figuring out how do we get from here to there. And I don't want to kind of launch into a critique of anarchism, but there's a Trotsky line that I like, which referred to kind of anarchism as like, this probably is apocryphal, and maybe I'm messing this up, but it's like a good looking raincoat that you put it on, but it kind of gets you wet. There's another version of it, which is how I know it's apocryphal, because there's like two versions of this thing, where it's like an umbrella that you like, but then on a rainy day you kind of open and there's whole syrup. I once tried to fact check it, and I found like Ted Grant or like some random Trotskyist. I'm like, I don't think this is like this was the era where you could just kind of like make up a cool quote and attribute it to someone, and whatever. If I was in the 1950s, I would be doing that like all day and be like, and it might have more. It might have more weight if Lenin said this instead of me, But I think those are the three kind of varieties of pieces, and that's the kind of different aspects of media. So, at some level, I'm kind of consider myself, in broad alliance with anyone who's kind of doing work raising levels of class consciousness, and given the very low, relatively low level, I should say, not very, politicization in the U.S. That's our first and our immediate step. So I don't think much about the crisis in sort of bourgeois journalism, even though I think it's probably a bad.
Bourgeois journalism means capitalist journalism. By the way, I want to mention this guy is the editor of is he the editor of Jacobin or The Nation? I feel like this guy's Jacobin, but he may have said The Nation. Anyway, the publication, it doesn't actually matter. The publication that this guy is an editor of is more of a democratic socialist publication. It's true either way. If it's Jacobin or if it's The Nation, it doesn't matter. That's more of like a democratic socialist organization. It's not like a revolutionary socialist publication. It's just important for people to know that. He's not as left as the other people there.
thing for us overall, in the same way that academia has always been a foe of the left, but academics produce material that the left uses and needs to understand the world. In the same way, actually having reporters out there reporting, or having like a good, well-functioning business press, and the FT having people who could tell you about the housing
It's the
market
same.
in Singapore. That's actually
That's why I was
useful for
confused.
developing a coherent left critique. And as we lose that, we're going to be in trouble. Though I do think in the short term, it's not necessarily a bad thing that younger people are getting their news and forming their opinions about things like the genocide in Gaza from like TikTok and social media, and from their friends, and kind of from alternative media sources, than from a Dan Rather. I think it's not entirely a bad thing. It presents opportunities, but I think in the long term, the decline of news gathering and also academia will make it harder potentially for us to understand the world, and therefore to develop more powerful critiques of capitalism and kind of visions of alternatives.
That makes a lot of sense to me. But do you think there's something different about the moment we're in and what our goals should be for our publishing? So, for example, I've been thinking a lot about this popular front we talked about broadly, right? And who's in this popular front, and what is our role and like responsibility as publishers in helping build that popular front? And that gets into some uncomfortable areas, like for us, right? Which is like, how do we talk to people who might not want to talk to as much around things, and how do we bring them in? But I'm curious for other folks on the panel, like, how are you thinking about targeting folks and bringing them over towards this, or is that a consideration that you're making?
Yeah, I think it's, in retrospect, something that we should have spent a lot of time thinking about earlier in a lot of our work. We were too busy making it to think about some of that, and some of it for good reason. That was our central
True.
question. But
I think they may have ended up arresting some people, but really what they should have done is round up all the Somalis in a fucking giant ass fucking truck and driven them to the airport and deported them. That is what they should have done. They should have, I think they did arrest people. I feel like I've heard people have gotten convicted of this, but like, there's been no example made. There's been no fucking big example to say, don't do this shit. They should have rounded up all the Somalis, put them in the back of a flatbed truck, driven them to the fucking airport, and flown their asses back to Somalia. That's what they should have done. Big mass example made. If you're going to come to the United States and then defraud us for millions and millions and millions of dollars. Got you? Got you? Okay. Unsurprising, Hans. Unsurprising.
The media that we make things in around podcasts and everything in multimedia, less print, less like newsletter, more things that people engage with on the go or on their phones, in passive ways.
Yes, all of them.
Has really, it really clear actually to Damon before to me, and he really pushed us for this, of like, we can't cede the space where people are passively getting snippets of information and then expect them to get their information from us in these long, deep, well-researched reports, stories, long-form pieces. Like there's this space that we need to be contesting for, where there's now like an established form of like,
You think I'm not serious about deporting literally every fucking Somali immigrant to the United States, who have all been a part of a community that has defrauded the United States taxpayer out of billions of fucking dollars? Anywhere these people show up in the country, they create these fucking communities in which they are entirely centered on stealing our fucking money after we allowed them into the country out of the goodness of our hearts. Do you think that I am opposed to deporting every fucking Somalian? Because you know what? It's not just about the people on the fucking forums. Their entire families are in on this, you fucking retard. One in the chat if you want Trump to round up every Somali immigrant in America, fly their asses to the airport, or to bust their asses, or put them in the back of a fucking truck. I don't give a fuck how they do it. Take the Somalians out of our fucking communities, concentrate them in some sort of camp until they can be flown back to fucking Somalia on the back of a fucking cargo plane. One in the chat if you want to do that to every single Somali immigrant. Two in the chat if you think I'm going too far. I'm not alone here. We're goofy. Oh, we're goofy. We're goofy. One in the chat if video here is obviously black. Two in the chat if he's definitely not black, because, definitely not black people oftentimes call things they're too low IQ to understand goofy. Thank you, average person, for the super chat. Why do other countries get to have immigration rules, but not us? Exactly. Somehow I got the feeling that guy is probably black, and that's why he's feeling a little salty right now. But I'm very sorry, bro. All Somalians deported back to fucking Somalia. Loss of privileges. Go away.
What people expect a podcast clip to look like, and if it looks a certain way, they take it seriously. And like that, I don't like that. That makes me really sad that is what gives it credibility.
Well, he can get
especially
deported
when,
too. I don't give a fuck.
In those clips aren't even actually talking to anyone. Like literally, they're just setting it up to. But that's a space that we need to be contesting for, and that we could use the form that people are comfortable with, and that people now, because of their distrust of traditional media, like have built, as the pendulum goes, like maybe an over trust in people who operate outside of that. How can we contest for that space by making things that are rooted in our politic, but aren't always explicitly about our politic? And this is a lesson from the right? Like they didn't make a bunch of shows about fascism. They made a bunch of shows about like weightlifting and like how to be a good, the right kind of guy, or a show about makeup tutorials, or but they imbued those things with their politic. And so they met people in a form that they were comfortable with, around topics that they were already thinking about, and then imbued the things they made with a politic that shifted people to the right. And as they're very proud of, they shifted the Overton window right? Like that's what they always say. And so that's a responsibility that we're trying to figure out how to contest, that space there of how to use the forms that people are familiar with and are now more comfortable with in many cases, and make things that are about the things they're already thinking about, but that are imbued with a liberatory politic.
Just to punctuate that, like, I think the journey of finding that was, at first there was just something emerging around us, this overlap of artistry and like, mostly young Black movement, protest movement, early movement for Black Lives context. This is just happening and needs to be documented. And then, as we like found our footing, established.
Thank you, Fosnots. I appreciate the super chat. The Somalis are a spore spot for me here in Maine. Google immortal Somalis. The main rabbit hole is bottomless. I don't even want to know. I don't want to know. Maine used to be like the best place ever, and now it's getting overrun with Somalis. Oh, just great.
It then became like, oh, we have a responsibility to support, to activate, to give the space for the 2-on-1, give the space for the debrief, give the space for I think one of the most important things for movements is self-recognition and legibility. Like, you act like you're in a movement when you know you're in a movement, and sometimes there are like dispersed, correlated activities happening. So, for example, we have this project series partnering with Interrupting Criminalization called 1 Million Experiments. It's a podcast, it's a film, it's also now a web travel series. And one of the thank you. Check it all out. And what felt like one of the greatest contributions of that space was people in Minneapolis and people in Seattle and people in Detroit are all like you right here, are all butting your heads up against there's somebody who doesn't talk to each other, or our funding went thing, or the city council pulled the rug on us at the last minute. Like these things that are very familiar are happening in the same places. And people didn't realize, like, oh, we're not the only people that did a monthly food drive. We're not the only people that, had a bailout fund. All of these things are correlated. We are part of something bigger than what like our day-to-day fight allows us to see. And there's no national or no industrial media that is naming, hey, there is a revolutionary thrust that tens of thousands of people are participating in right now. So you feel isolated. So for a while, we were very much realized like, oh, there's a great value in talking to movement and making sure that there is this conversation happening, because there's not really an intermediary holding that as much. Well, us, but like outside of us. And now in seeing like fascism on the rise and it having such a popular basis at this point, unfortunately, the responsibility is like, oh, we can still speak from the context of movement, but it is not meeting the assignment in this moment to just be talking to movement. And so what does it look like to shift, the spread of who we bring on our show? What does it look like for the projects we're going to design in the future to, from this politic, from these values and principles, speak to people who are not yet the people who are going to go canvas, who are not yet the people who may never be that. But, we use some of like, I'm sure some of y'all are familiar with like the momentum style of organizing that gives you this arc of a spectrum of, it's not just MAGA and us, right? It's not just these poles. There are folks that are neutral. There are folks that are passive. There are folks that are active. And so what does it look like to move someone from neutral to a passive supporter? And maybe they're not going to take to the street, but that passive space had real consequence, and we can't, we can't see it.
So I was actually gonna ask Maya a specific question, because I think of Truth Out as an outlet that does both of the things that people are talking about, and how you straddle that is something I'm curious what you think about. So being the voice of movements,
I don't care.
Things,
like
sure
this is why the Trump administration are such fucking massive pussies. They, like, the excuse that conservatives always make, and I don't think you're doing this, Tiffany, but like I'm using this as an example. The excuse that conservatives always make is, it's the judge's fault. It's the judge's fault. It's the judge's fault. You know what, Trump? You control the fucking military. You control the military. Put their asses in a giant truck. Drive them to a military base. Tell them to get the fuck out of the truck. Load them onto a giant fucking military plane, fly their asses to Somalia, open the back of the plane, say, get the fuck out. And if they're already back in Somalia, what can any fucking judge really do about it? Do you think they're going to be smart enough to try to make their way back to the United States after we just fucking hauled their asses out of the country on a military plane? They're going to want to make that trip again? I don't think so. So just fucking do it. Stop pussyfooting around. Just fucking do it. Are you serious? Old Sub, I'm deeply, deeply confused about that question, if I'm being honest about it. But my answer is there are cults on both the left and the right. So that's really what it's in reference to. Andre, exactly. Deport the judges too, since they are part of the family. Families can be deported together. Yeah, exactly. Put the fucking judges on the plane as well to teach them a fucking lesson. Thank you.
people know the stuff that's happening that you would not otherwise hear about because nobody else is reporting on it. But also, obviously, occupying a kind of self-consciously journalistic space too. Yeah. And so how do you parse those arguments about objectivity and those kinds of things?
Yeah, thanks for that. And thanks a lot. No, I really, really appreciate that question, actually. And I think that there's this myth of the fly on the wall. You know, there's this myth of the objective ideal that if you only interview like a balanced enough group of people, if you only like get the facts from the correct sources, which are very mainstream and corporate, then you'll achieve this objective reality. And I certainly believe in truth, accuracy, transparency, accountability, justice. And we are very, very, very committed to being accountable to all those values. And like, we're called Truth Out. We don't think truth is relative, but we also don't believe in the specific journalistic objectivity that can be gained from kind of these things that they sometimes teach in J school that are very built around I was gonna make a metaphor, but I can't think of what it would be. So I'm gonna stop with the attempt at that. But I think what it does when you free yourself from that idea that, oh, if I only interview a balanced enough set of sources, truth, which I think so often has been the guiding light of mainstream journalism, then you have to contend with, okay, what actually is truth and how is it tied up with justice and how is it connected with goals of liberation? And can we be honest with ourselves that that's what we want? Like, it's not like, oh, we're covering movements that want liberation over here, but we're journalists. We don't want anything. Like, no, we have to be honest with ourselves. And I would hope that people getting into journalism are committed to justice and liberation and see it as connected with truth.
I hope that people getting into journalism are committed to justice and liberation. What does that mean? Pop quiz for the chat. I hope that people who are getting into journalism are committed to justice and liberation. What does that mean? What does that mean? I hope that people getting into journalism are committed to blank and blank. Justice and liberation. What do they mean by justice? What do they mean by liberation? Exactly. Exactly. Well done. Well done. When socialists say justice, they mean socialism. Socialism is the only true form of justice. When socialists say liberation, they mean the revolution to overthrow capitalism. That is the only form of liberation. Liberation is only from the capitalist system that is oppressing everyone and causing all the problems. So when this person said, I hope that people getting into journalism are committed to justice and liberation, what they actually meant was, I hope that people getting into journalism are committed to socialism and revolution. That's the type of code switching you need to learn to do in your head. This might seem rather simplistic, but like, the better you can get at changing the meaning of the words to their language, not our language, like in real time, the more you understand the severity of the problem. They cannot achieve their revolution without overthrowing the current government, guys. They cannot achieve their revolution without overthrowing the capitalist system. That means the government. That means the United States Constitution. They believe the United States Constitution is a capitalist document that was written to uphold capitalism. You cannot achieve their revolution or liberation without overthrowing the Constitution and overthrowing the government.
So that's one thing, that our investigative reporting, which we are dedicated to, we put resources into, and we always will, is not a separate thing from our coverage of movements, our coverage of new projects that are emerging, that are showing the different world that we want, and also our op-eds, like elevating the thoughts and plans and dreams of organizers and thinkers who are going to seed that new world. So I think all of those things are connected. They're not necessarily different genres with different goals. And I think a lot about how, particularly with investigative reporting, we hope we're not just putting truths into the ether. We want to see impact. You know, we can't always document it with kind of like neat impact stories, but we have seen people freed from prison because of our reporting. We have seen fracking ended in various localities as a result of injustices that we've exposed. And we've seen movements grow substantially because of stories we first put out there. You know, when we first started reporting on money bail, it was something that, you know, not that many people were talking about in most media. And then that movement grew partly because there was media available. There was reporting available on the fact that, and shifting the framework around it, around the fact that people were in jail because they could not pay their way out. You know, previous reporting around, you know, courts and jail and bail was so often like, oh yeah, you know, this is just how the system works, and you're incarcerated pre-trial, you know, while you're still technically innocent. And, you know, and then, oh, they paid the bail, you know, the way that.
Yo! Hey, breaking news! Breaking news! Breaking news! Did you guys know I'm going viral on Instagram right now? And do you guys know that because I'm going viral on Instagram right now, I just today surpassed 10,000 followers, where I was like at like 7,000 followers a couple weeks ago. And do you know that just because I passed 10,000 followers on Instagram, now I have a verification check mark on Instagram. I am Instagram official. Because even though my video talking about going undercover at the No Kings protest didn't really do anything on Twitter for reasons I don't know why, it's actually going viral on Instagram and TikTok. Do you guys know that? Do you guys know, like, the No Kings undercover stuff not getting any play at all on Twitter, where people are complaining about fucking nonsense, but it is going viral on Instagram and on TikTok, apparently. So, yay, Instagram verification. And now people, when they see pictures of me with my purses and my bags and my luxury goods, now people will know it's definitely me. So this is the really important part, guys. If you want to follow my Instagram, not only will you sometimes get updates on my work following the left, you will also get important purse updates where you guys can see what bags I'm wearing and what sunglasses I have. Those are my steampunk sunglasses. Those are in the other room. Those are Reagan's favorite sunglasses right there. Those are Reagan's favorite sunglasses. They're really fucking cool, actually. Yay! Instagram verification. That's rad.
Truth out, but not only truth out, many movement made a
Yeah, it means
conscious
I have to be
effort
taken seriously.
to interrogate
Exactly.
that, to investigate
Exactly.
that, but also to shift the frameworks that they were using to talk about it, to not assume that that is just, to use different language to show that this person actually has not been convicted of anything. They're incarcerated because they can't pay $500, you know? That had a tangible impact. And I don't want to exaggerate, but I will say like thousands more people are free because of things that happened with movements and media working in conjunction to change narratives and therefore change minds and change laws. In Illinois in particular, you know, there's no money bail. Where did that come from? It came from movements. Thank you, Chicago Community Bond Fund, and many more, Coalition to End Money Bail, but it also came from media. And so I think we need to think about these things working together and not think any less of journalism that actually is acknowledging that justice is a goal, that liberation is a mission. It doesn't make you propaganda. You know, it's actually important for us to be able to pursue the world we want to live in. I could go on and on about this particular topic, so I will. Thank you for asking.
It's also the case that propaganda gets a bad rap, if you're asking me.
I mean, I love propaganda. I'm just saying journalism is a different thing. Yeah.
So maybe I wanted to ask one more meta media question before getting into some of the specific stuff that we're kind of dealing with in a concrete way, and that has to do with the thing I brought up before about sustainability and like how, given the landscape and some of that crisis that I started with, do people think about sustaining these individual projects, finding new people, like growing your ability to keep doing what you're doing? Because even as anti-capitalist publications and individuals and movement actors, you got to keep the lights on. So I'm wondering how each of you approach that.
I haven't heard this term movement actors before. We need to keep this in mind. So they're calling themselves movement media and movement actors, meaning they're like activist media. They're like far left activist media. So we just need to keep an eye out for that term because it's pretty generic. I just haven't heard them specifically use it before.
I mean,
Movement media.
I've always been a believer that it's important.
It's like breakthrough news, the lefty media we watch when we're watching protests. It's like breakthrough news and status quo news are movement media. They're not real journalists. They are activists pretending to be journalists.
For media projects to work on largely market terms, in part because it enforces a degree of discipline and efficiency, and that's at the
reach
core of sustainable projects. So if I think about like Jacobin, for instance, was started with, I think I like started up with like maybe a couple $100, and I was, working at Key Foods grocery store, and I was so incompetent that like my first day as a cashier, normally they expect you to like have less money in your register because like you make some rounding mistakes, whatever. So that wasn't going to be an issue, but they were training me, and I guess I was rounding the other direction at times, so I ended up with more money. And then, I was a young, socialist. I'm like, this is a good thing, right? Like I made Key Foods grocery store an extra $2. They're like, no, this is really, really bad. So they just had me stock shelves and walk around and stuff. But I was an early, I was trying to develop what I think later the kids started calling like being the personality hire, but I'm sure people didn't like because I was not good at my job. But anyway, some of the proceeds from that, was what started Jacobin. So from the very beginning, the question was, how do I, make money to sustain this project, which was the same as how do I get readers? So if I was looking for rich people to give me money or large foundations to give me grants, then from the very beginning, my first question would be, how do I get money and how do I spend money? But in this case, it was, how do I get readers? Because readers will give you money. And the third issue of Jacobin is no bigger than the first two issues, but it's a double issue because the model really wasn't working. And I was just taking upfront money, which is like deferred revenue because it's a subscription-based product, and spending it to do one issue on the premise of like exponential growth. And that premise was just falling apart by issue 3. So I had to just like, when that issue was going to the printer, I just put issue 3/4 double issue. Not legal, actually, not correct. A double issue, technically, you need to add a signature to a special, just for what it's worth. But I think we're past. This is 2011.
Yeah, I think
no,
so.
No, signature like 16
Probably.
pages or 8 pages or whatever extra. But so from the start, it was based on the subscription model, and obviously, for issue 5 of Jacobin, Rumike Forbes, our really talented creative director, came on, and the issue just like Jacobin became this beautiful product, and also the Occupy movement happened, and it kind of grew from there. So I was bailed out, but the subscription model I think was key behind Jacobin as a successful product. And then even now, as we get more donations, I sometimes think that we're getting donations now at a time that Jacobin's growing slowly, but we could have actually probably used that money much more when we were growing very, very rapidly. But if I get money now, I in general like to spend that money on like acquisition. So like ideally if I get $100,000, no one's really giving me $100,000. Everyone has $100,000. I'll take it. But let's say if you were, any one of you in the audience were to give me $100,000.
If anyone wants to give me $100,000, might I suggest you make a donation to the Center for Left-Wing Studies, because it would be totally tax deductible, because the Center for Left-Wing Studies is my nonprofit where we are dedicated to mapping out the modern activist left so that we can actually understand the problem that we're dealing with. And the Center for Left-Wing Studies is what is supporting the volunteer effort to go undercover at the No Kings protest, which we did a little over a week ago. It's also going to be supporting the effort to go undercover at the May Day protest, which we'll be doing on May 1st. We're going to be doing a call for volunteers for that. It will also support the Occupy Libraries series of events where we want to go around the country and do presentations at libraries to show people what the real far left is doing, to literally occupy the libraries. And it's going to support some other stuff too. So if you have like a spare $100,000 sitting around, or you have like a rich uncle or something, and you're like, how do we spend this money and do it in a way where we can take a giant tax deduction? You can do it by giving it to my nonprofit. That's what you can do. And I will use it to hire people like Reagan to help me organize all this information and to create an actual team of people dedicated to mapping the modern activist left, because we're trying to do it right now as volunteer. I don't take a salary from this. I do not take a salary. I will not take a salary from the Center for Left-Wing Studies until we have actually like a like more formalized operation. But it would be really, really, really helpful to hire people and to pay them money so that they can do this for their job instead of what they're doing for their job. So I'm just putting it out there that if anyone wants to give me $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million or $10 million or anything like that, tax deductible nonprofit. If you want to give $20 too, you can still take the tax deduction on $20, $50, $100, $1,000, like whatever. All gifts to the Center for Left-Wing Studies, which you can find by going to leftwingstudies.com, are tax deductible.
What I would do is probably do a combination of like direct mail or digital media campaigns.
I'm not even joking about that.
And whereas normally, in order to get a proper acquire a paying reader, I might not.
Or you could just give me super
potential
fast
audience is
membership
small
too.
enough that I might not be able to spend $100,000 efficiently. So I could only spend $50,000 and get the right cost of acquisition. But if a donor would give me money, then I would be able to say I could actually lose money on these subscribers. But in the long run, you're actually getting more readers. And also with the print publication, there's certain economies of scale that you get, through printing and things like that. And that's my general approach. I think if Jacobin got a large sum of money early on or to start off, we would have been a very different publication, and not even content or censorship, but just lots of subtle in other ways. And I think with any project, it's a big mistake if the first question you're asking is, how do I spend money, instead of how do I get money? And ideally getting money is connected to your actual ideological purpose, which is getting readers and, kind of keeping the two in sync, I think is important.
Questions about getting money. Well, I'll just add like 2 sentences. That was awesome. I agree. So Truth Out is 80% supported by small donations from readers. And it's, a staff of 23. And let's see, a third of our budget is supported by recurring small donations from readers, like monthly donors. And we find that revenue base to basically be the thing, right?
Karlyn, who is the left funded by? They are funded by people making small donations on a consistent basis. That is otherwise known as mutual aid. Who is funding this Truth Out media bullshit? They are funded by small donations from normie people that they make on a monthly or annual basis. They are telling you how explicitly they are funded. They are not using a secret code. They are telling you explicitly what is going on. Listen again.
I agree. So Truth Out is 80% supported by small donations from readers. And it's, you know, a staff of
Yo, channel
23.
logo. Thank you.
And let's see, a third of our budget is supported by recurring small donations.
No,
from
I don't know how many times I have to say this. No! There is no Soros. There is no large funding. This is why there is no fucking RICO case. This is why there is no head of the snake. This is why Trump hasn't solved fuck off about the far left. There is no larger funding mechanism for the far left. That does not exist. Please. I am yelling because I need you to start to get this through your head. You've been watching enough of my videos that you should know this by now, but you keep asking these questions to try to get any sort of confirmation that your conservative bullshit talking points are correct. There is no larger funding mechanism for the far left. None. No Soros. No head of the snake. No RICO case. Trump promised you guys RICO cases months and months and months and months and months ago, almost a fucking year ago. Trump promised you, we know who's funding these people. We're going to put together the biggest, most beautiful RICO case in the history of the world. Where the fuck is the RICO case if there's any big funding mechanism that is funding all the far left groups? Oh, the RICO case never happened because they never had the information they said they did, which I said from the very fucking beginning, because there is no larger funding mechanism on the left. It is all mutual aid, with rare exception, and the organizations that are getting a lot of funding are progressive groups. These are not progressives that we're watching. These are socialists. The far left is funded by mutual aid. Small donations made on a consistent basis, usually in cash, sometimes in other things. Yo, W's to Cowboy. Thank you for those 5 gifted channel memberships. Also, W to Julie. Thank you very much, Julie, for the gifted channel membership. Appreciate you guys. That brings us up to 38. Cool. Making progress towards the goal. Really appreciate all the channel memberships, guys. You rock.
Readers, like monthly donors, and we find that revenue base to basically be the thing, right? Like everyone is constantly struggling for foundation revenue.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great question. I think, well, we'll get that in the super chat in a second. I think it's a great question from Tiffany. The woman in the video literally just said that 80% of the funding comes from small donations that they get on a monthly basis. They say this all the time. They do entire presentations about mutual aid. They write entire books about this. They talk about how mutual aid is how they do this all the fucking time. And conservatives just won't fucking listen, because repeating whatever bullshit they hear on Fox News or from Glenn Beck is more important to them than actually being hinged into reality with the truth. It is so fucking ridiculous. It's not even funny. Andre, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. When Karlyn says the left, she means the far left, socialist, communist, anarchist, and Marxist. Yes, very true. That is almost always what I mean, unless I say otherwise. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Just literally search mutual aid. If you don't believe me, oh my fucking God. You know what, Dan? I'm sure it's Soros money. I'm sure it's Soros. I'm sure it comes from the CCP. I'm sure that's it, bro. I'm sure. You got him. Dan broke the case. Dan broke the case. I'm sure it's all Soros funded, dude. I'm sure it's all Soros funded. Hey, Dan, we're going to start to institute a new rule for you. I need you to pay very close attention to this video.
You take your top lip and connect it to your bottom lip, you will shut the fuck up. sometimes shutting the fuck up is the best thing you can do.
Dan, from now on, your job is literally to shut the fuck up and listen and learn and to ask questions that are not conservative retard questions, okay? Well, you've been around the channel long enough. I'm expecting you to start to assimilate some of the things I've taught you painstakingly. You've got to start listening, bro. You've got to stop, like, with the conservative bullshit. It's not helpful. Let's go back and listen to this whole thing again.
Got a large sum of money early on, or to start off, we would have been a very different publication, and not even content or censorship, but just lots of subtle in other ways. And I think with any project, it's a big mistake if the first question you're asking is, how do I spend money, instead of how do I get money? And ideally, getting money is connected to your actual ideological purpose.
Thank you,
which is
Drew
getting
Logo!
readers
Thank you!
And kind of keeping the two in sync,
Appreciate
I think
it.
is important.
What did he do?
Questions about getting money. Well, I'll just add like 2 sentences. That was awesome. I agree. So Truth Out is 80% supported by small donations from readers. And it's, a staff of...
It is 80% supported by small donations from readers. What that means is, and I've worked in these types of organizations, so I feel like I can say this pretty well. They probably have a fundraising department where they are reaching out to people for larger gifts than just a couple of bucks a month. What I mean when I say larger gifts is if someone is giving like $100 a month to one of these organizations, oftentimes they're considered to be what is called a leadership gift. So if someone is making a donation of $10 a month, that is different than someone making a donation of $100 a month, because that is where organizations can raise a lot of money by having people who can afford to give more be at a leadership level, so they get special newsletters and a little bit more attention and thank you and praise and stuff like that. However, what I want people like Dan to really fucking understand is we are not talking about millions of dollars. We are talking about someone with a $10 a month subscription to a magazine and someone who really appreciates the magazine and has chosen to give like $100 a month. These are not millions of dollars, but you can raise a significant amount of money, possibly 20% of their money, by just having different options for people where they have the option to give a little bit more money and they get a little bit more personal attention and praise in return. That is how they are doing it. It's just people who are giving a little bit more. This is not, you're telling me that 20% of their needs are funded by some secret Soros funding fucking pipeline from the CCP? No. Hinge into fucking reality and learn how these things work in the real world. Thank you, old sub. Sorry for the confusion on the second question. That's okay. Something was said earlier that made me start wondering what side our call was. Oh, I'm on the far right. I am on the far right. Far right. But ultimately, I don't care what people believe. If you want to learn about the left, if you want to push back against the left, I don't actually care. I personally am on a very extreme far right. You can be whatever you want to be. You don't have to be what I am. And so as long as we can agree that this is a fucking problem and we're all doing something about this problem, I truly don't care. I really don't care. After your reaction, I realized our cult is not about sides, it's about being anti-communist. That's exactly correct. That is exactly correct. As long as you are anti-communist, you don't have to agree with me politically. You really don't. You could even be a Zionist, and I would excuse it. As long as you're not causing problems, as long as you're not starting fights and doing all sorts of bullshit because you want me to support Israel. Like, if we can agree to disagree on the areas that we disagree on and just focus on this, I don't give a fuck.
23. And let's see, a third of our budget is supported by recurring small donations from readers, like monthly donors. And
Recurring small
we
donations.
find that revenue base to basically be the thing, right? Like everyone is constantly struggling for foundation revenue, and then there's this cycle where you then are at their mercy. You're at their mercy in terms of what you can do. A lot of times you need to do the project that you created in order to meet the terms of their grant. You need to, hire this person that you were never going to hire because that's what they want you to do. And then they can take it all away at a moment's notice. And so we decided to focus on growing our small donor base for values reasons, like for that reason. Also because no foundation would give us money because they thought we were, commies. And
that you are commies. You are commies, actually.
Third,
Wait, did you
the
just hear that? Did you just hear that? So much for the conservative narrative that these are all big funded people. This lady literally just said, no organization would give us money because they thought we were commies. They are commies, by the way. But so much for this idea that the far left is funded by these big ass donors. This lady just flat out said, no organization would give us money because they thought we were commies. Oh, again, please, madam.
That you created in order to meet the terms of their grant. You need to, hire this person that you were never going to hire because that's what they want you to do. And then they can take it all away at a moment's notice. And so we decided to focus on growing our small donor base for values reasons, like for that reason. Also because no foundation would give us money because they thought we were, commies. And
guys, Soros gives money from a foundation. That is how they are making gifts. It is a tax thing. I don't really know that much about it, other than they created their own philanthropic foundation, and they get tax breaks by distributing money from their philanthropic foundation. Okay, this lady just said no foundation would give us money because they thought we were commies. There is no fuck off universe in which there is a big funding pipeline to this. And this is what they're trying to tell you. And conservatives need to shut the fuck up and listen for once in their lives. Again.
You were never going to hire because that's what they want
The
you to do.
Open Society
and then
Foundation.
They can take it all away at a moment.
The Open Society Foundation. It's a foundation.
Moment's notice. And so we decided to focus on growing our small donor base for values reasons, like for that reason. Also because no foundation would give us money because they thought we were, commies. And then and then third, like after the fact, we started developing this rationale, like, oh, fundraising is base building. Fundraising, when you're reaching out to small donors,
fundraising
is a way of engaging your readers.
Wow.
Giving them more of a commitment to the organization, including more of a commitment to reading, which means informing themselves and potentially being mobilized. And also, it's a way of growing the network of people that are in community with each other. And so I think that this kind of reframe, I've always hated fundraising, but that reframe, thinking about it as organizing, as base building, and as growing our community has made it not only more palatable, I guess, but also not disconnected from our mission. Not like, I guess we got to do capitalism today, but like more like, oh yeah, this is part of it. This is a component of the
This is
work.
part of it.
Yeah, and I also feel like an important distinction is that Truth Out is primarily online. So it's not that you're on a newsstand selling the issues. So this is another one of the features of the whole picture that I feel like is worth continuing to talk about. But I want to move in the direction of some like concrete stuff that we're dealing with, like issues that are out there. The name of the panel was about, a hostile regime, left media in context of a hostile regime.
Okay.
And
Listen, bro. It's now been 3 days that you've been spamming this bullshit in my chat. And it's been 3 days that we've told you to stop and you've gotten timed out. This is now the last straw. You're permanently banned from the channel. You really shouldn't do this shit. It's annoying as fuck. Go away.
we are in a situation of growing authoritarianism and lots of repression against not just the left, but movements and what have you. And I know I wanted to see, Ari, if you could take this one first, because I know in these times I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, given the growth of repression and everything that we're facing on our movements, how are you thinking about trying to do the kind of work that's going to be important in changing the balance? Or do you even think that's too ambitious? What's the mission at the moment when repression is coming down from on high?
It's a good idea, Fosnon.
Good question. And I'm also still a step back on sustainability,
Sure.
which I think the two of these are actually connected more than we might think for the moment right now. Because in order to operate right now in a responsible and meaningful way, knowing that there are more definition suits being filed than ever before for a lot of folks. There's like all sorts of these sort of like surrounding attacks. You have all of our nonprofits are worried about our, our status as, 501c3s and what are we going to do? And there's this like constant thing. And so one of the things that you need in newsrooms, there's a couple of things that you need in newsrooms at that moment. You need both the ability to be bold in this moment. You need to move forward with like boldness and with strength. And you also got to have your shit together. You got to have all of your finances being audited. You have to have your lawyers together. You have to have every step so that when one of your people is, let's say, taken by the FBI, you are ready to spring into action to support these people.
Wouldn't that be great if that actually happened?
A level of
That'd be rad.
vigilance, a level of management, and a level of organization to protect like against that on one level as well. And then it takes bold vision moving forward. And really excited to be with all of you on the panel because you all have such bold visions in what you're doing. And this like makes me feel pretty good about independent media as we go forward. But that bold vision also, in my opinion, cannot be reckless at all. It has to be like really strategic. You have to find your points of attack, of approach, and where you can find particular windows to actually take a shot at the fascists that are taking our neighbors off the street. And so how do we do that in these times? We do it in what I think are really, really smart ways. We look at housing and how this is all operating under housing and also the commercial real estate running this and things like that. We look at this from like a number of different angles that really sort of unearth the problem in lots of ways. But the one other thing that I think is worth mentioning, and I'm curious if this is still happening to folks on the panel here, for a while after the Trump administration was really going after student journalists in particular who had written about Palestine. In these times, and other organizations started getting flooded with requests for people to take their names out of articles, not just bylines, but everything off like completely, right? And there was this collective sort of, well, what do we do with this? Because this isn't really what we do, but this is a very scary moment. And so we did a lot of research, a lot of talking to other folks. I was working with the National Writers Union on this for a little bit as well. And I also called a whole lot of journalists who had a lot of expertise of dealing with this under McCarthyism, during HUAC, and things like that. Uniformly, all of these journalists were like, don't do it. This is horrible. Do not do it. They were also all white men. I should note like as that, which is like when we're thinking about like levels of this. But what they were trying to convey in that moment was that once you start going down this road, you can't really go back on it. Once it becomes acceptable to just strip names out of everything, you just become this like anonymous situation that actually is abandoning what we're all about at the beginning. This is a really interesting tension. It has very much slowed down, at least for
We
in these
need
times on it, but I'm curious
neo-McCarthyism.
if y'all are also
Hey guys, I gotta pee real quick. I'm gonna let this play. Let me know if I miss anything. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
dealing with this or wrestling with it.
Well, I'll pass on the mic, but I will say that Jacobin did remove and does remove names on requests, and also requests like archives, like Internet Archive will request that pages are taken down and things like that. And it is mostly from people on student visas in that context and otherwise. But I could see the point in the abstract if it was much bigger on a wider scale, but I actually don't think we're sacrificing much in this instance. And also, I think this is the case where we could kind of make these, states of, exception where we're doing things we normally wouldn't do in these 5, 10, 15 instances, but we're publishing 5, 10 articles a day, right? So,
Oh, I took my policy from
yeah. Oh, I forgot we had this conversation. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I got to be more careful when I give advice because I just, I don't think things through much. But
Well, do you want to?
It hasn't been an issue for us in this particular instance because we typically are the people whose names are on the things that we make. We keep things very small, partially for the sustainability reasons of like we've watched so many not media but movement organizations, nonprofits organizations start to get a little support, start to scale up and try to do everything, and then they can't maintain it. And so we made a very conscious choice to, instead of being obsessed with the capacity we didn't have, think about what we could make with the things we did. And the other side of that is like recognizing that if it's our names on the piece, we're taking that responsibility, and not asking someone else to take a responsibility that we wouldn't be able to take. And so I do think there's been self-censorship is too strong of a word. I think some of this framework around like, how do you be bold without being confrontational isn't the right word either. The word is like reckless, which is I think what you said before, of like being the loudest and the most bombastic in general, I think is not our approach. We often think of what we do as like after the moment where everyone is saying a bunch of things that they don't know what they're talking about. We're a place that they can come to try to parse and make sense with us. And so that's kind of the role.
Yeah,
that we
this is a good point, Music
Musican.
Thank you.
While recognizing the responsibility of if it's gonna be our names on it, we should be thoughtful about that. But to that slippery slope point, it's like if we choose not to have that conversation that we know is the right conversation, then we're lying to you on this panel. Like, what's the point of doing any of this?
And I think where it has come up for us the most is not for us as journalists or media makers, but in trying to be responsible and in certain instances like protective of the people who trust us with their stories and with their time and with their likeness, and especially since we're moving in like the multimedia internet space, like that is different than sending things to a base.
I don't
of readers
necessarily
and
disagree,
supporters
Music,
who
and I
then
get
have
it.
already, message some alignment. To be honest, like things that may do the best are things that will reach the people that disagree the most or the most vehemently. And so what does it mean to have an organizer who is undocumented very courageously telling us about their experience, naming themselves as undocumented, naming the work that they're doing, and like we're putting out a clip, which is meant to be beyond where we can control. So do we maybe make this an audio only episode, or little things that feel silly to have to take so much time to think about, but like you see a video and there's the caption, there's the subtitles of what they're saying, but then there's the caption of how it's being framed, and your incentive structure is now being like challenged. It's like the thing that might actually get the most engagement might endanger this person more. And so in these times where the danger feels so much more physical and visceral and material, we don't see ourselves at risk in the same way, which is like so for people may not listen to our work or our show, but we ask every episode with this two-part question: how's the world treating you, or how are you treating the world? And I'm feeling a thing that has been happening a lot increasingly over the last 2 to 3 years of people recognizing like, oh, I am so hyper aware and attuned to all of this crisis around, but I am not like at the forefront of the brunt of that experience. So how do I name how I'm moving through this? So similarly to this repression, like maybe we don't got enough followers, I don't know, maybe we're not big enough, but some of the forms we choose are like not on the list, but we know that we are in alignment and in support and solidarity with that list. And so how do we then not like put ourselves, but not really ourselves, how do we not put the people we're documenting in danger?
Yeah, just quickly, and some of that is very intentional around the word choice, not of what we make in the episode or in the piece, but about the words we use in the marketing materials about that. Of recognizing like a lot of the brunt of the attack that we've seen land on other people is not because like far-right trolls or some far-right think tank like took the time to read the transcript. It's like, no, there's like certain words that they have, the alerts for, and then they direct it. And so what if we...
So listen, what did they just say? What did they just say? What did they just say? What did they literally just say? These far-right trolls don't even take the time to read us or listen to us. They just have certain keywords set up that they look for. And they're right about that. They're right about that. We are the only people. This community is the only people that I know of. There may always be things I don't know. I'm always open to that new information. But as of right now, my community is the only group of people that I know of that actually sits our asses down and listens to what these people have to say in their full form. And they know that. And so for people who are confused, Karlyn, how do you get away with this time after time after time after time after time? How do you get into their meetings and they have no idea what's going on? How are you able to continue to go undercover at their events and they are none the wiser? It's because they are correct that the vast majority of people do not listen to what they're saying. And I think that they've only recently started to figure out that I actually will go to their events and sit through the whole fucking thing. I think that they've only recently started to figure this out. So you have to understand, the reason I can continue to go do this is they have no expectation at all that anyone from the far right is actually just going to go and sit quietly at their event and listen. They think that if a far right troll or agitator is listening to them, they're like standing there with a MAGA sign or some such bullshit, because what we're doing is so rare that they have no conception of people on our side being able to do this. Listen again.
What we make in the episode or in the piece, but about the words we use in the marketing materials about that. Of recognizing like a lot of the brunt of the attack that we've seen land on other people is not because like far-right trolls or some far-right think tank like took the time to read the transcript. It's like, no, there's like certain words that they have, the alerts for, and then they direct it. And so what if we get creative with the words we use and say it in a way that's not less like tactful or direct, but is not using the word that they're the one that they're looking for.
What if we as leftists, I'm saying what he's saying, what if we as leftists trick all those stupid right-wingers by simply taking the keywords that they're looking for and switching them over to other words so that their keyword notifications don't go off when we use the new words? And we know, and again, I'm repeating what he's saying, we know those silly right-wingers don't actually listen to us, so they're going to be totally unprepared for when we try to obfuscate their monitoring of us by just changing the words to something different and tricking those stupid right-wingers that way. This is why we sit our asses down and we listen to what they're saying so that we can hear how they're using the words in full context. so that we can understand what they mean by them. This is why we don't do clickbait. This is why we don't take clips out of context and make them be the end all be all of what we're doing here. What we do is harder than what anyone else is doing that's studying this phenomenon. It takes more time. It takes more patience. It takes, sometimes drugs to help get you through it, especially when you have a long day. But there's no other way to truly understand these people and to truly monitor what they're doing and what they're talking about and what they're doing next if you don't actually sit your asses down and listen to the entire thing. Not the clickbait, not the 30-second clip that some retard curated and then put up to make a political point that isn't even real. You have to sit down and listen to them.
And then they direct it. And so what if we get creative with the words we use and say it in a way that's not less like tactful or direct, but is not using the word that they're the one that they're looking for. And so, yeah, to your point of the caption, the subtitle on a video, in the video, we spend a lot of time thinking about that. Or like, will this bring in the people that we want? What would it feel like to receive this for the people we want to engage with our work? And what is the risk of using this buzzword in a way that could bring an attack? And that's where it showed up most in our work.
Ooh. What does Daniel do again? What does Daniel do? Daniel Kistlinger, definitely not Jewish. Daniel is Ergo Radio. Let me just look. Maybe we should be paying attention to what Daniel is doing rather closely. Maybe we should be paying attention rather closely to what Daniel is doing and what terms Daniel is using and what Daniel is talking about. Maybe we should just pay attention. You got distracted by Whatnot. See, Hans, you got to learn how to multitask. I got Whatnot on right in front of me. I'm watching a Purse show right now, but we're still paying attention. We're still doing research. Yeah, Daniel's a vibe. Maybe we should tag Daniel. Is Daniel? I'm sure he's not on Twitter. Oh, he is. Oh, wait, hang on. Wait, Ergo. Oh, haven't posted on? Oh no, I guess they are posting. I guess them kind of is posting. Baseball stuff. Haven't posted in a couple months though. Perhaps we should tag Daniel and his friends on Twitter and just let them know that we understand his little plan to change all the words, assuming that people like us aren't going to listen to him. Maybe we should just all tag him and reply to his Twitter account and stuff like that. Or, if you want to go on another platform and do it, that's cool too, bro. That's cool too.
And that's where it showed up most in our work.
It's really interesting. I really appreciate this conversation because I feel like it gets at this larger issue of the fact that journalism is not in itself a public good. Like it can also be a total shit show and really, really harmful. And so it's like we have to think really carefully about how the choices we make affect people's actual real lives. And I think about, we've learned this the hard way on a number of occasions. In contrast to many publications, Truth Out is not perfect. And I remember one in particular, like 15 years ago, we did an investigative piece and it was meant to be movement aligned. But it was about somebody who had an open case and they were awaiting trial. And the investigative reporter interviewed them and they said things that could absolutely have been used against them. And so when that piece was published, even though the person who had been interviewed, said the thing, by a certain journalistic logic, you'd be like, yeah, what's the problem? A lot of movement folks called Truth Out to task. They were like, why'd you do this? You endangered a person. And so it kind of provoked this reckoning at the organization. And we kind of came to an agreement that we needed to consciously and intentionally embrace a do no harm approach. And so, what that might mean for us, we had previously had a very strict policy around anonymous sources. And you had to, in order to be an anonymous source, you had to disclose all these things about your risk level to the reporter. And then we revised that substantially. And we were like, why are we doing this? Oh, yeah, because like a couple people on our staff went to journalism school, you know? And so stuff like that, or anonymous authors, we used to have a really, really high bar around that. And we still have certainly criteria. It's not like anyone can just be anonymous if they want, but we have adjusted and softened that. And we've also been much more proactive about thinking about risk beyond a person telling us that they're at risk, and thinking about like, okay, carefully and case by case, how do we just check in with people and say, hey, like, we noticed, you know, you gave this quote. Are you sure you want us to put this quote in? Or, you know, we checked this with a lawyer and we're wondering, like, do you really want to use your name in this story? And sometimes they say yes. You know, we have a lot of Palestinian authors in Palestine, reporting from Palestine, taking very intense risks and wanting to put their names on their pieces very strongly. And so we do respect that. And so I think, but thinking about harm and preventing it, along with thinking about how our work can do good and how our work can mobilize people and inform people, has been a real shift for us over our 25 years.
One quick thing just on the state of the country and the authoritarian threat. I do think there's a bigger danger at the moment in overstating the threat, in part because it does encourage self-censorship. I think there's a big threat to journalists who are on, you know, who have work authorizations but not permanent residents, and then just in general, people who aren't citizens, you know, especially people with student visas and others. That threat is real. But if you actually look at even the thing that a lot of journalists or publishers are afraid of, it's the revoking of a nonprofit status, or and also so revoking of basically a tax subsidy, right?
They wouldn't be worried about their nonprofit status being revoked if they weren't being political in their actions. Like with my nonprofit, I can't advocate on behalf of the nonprofit for a political party or a political candidate or anything like that. The work of my nonprofit is completely nonpartisan. I have to keep the nonprofit stuff separate from like everything else that I do. I have to have like separate fucking everything, because the work of the nonprofit has to be nonpartisan. That is why the work of the nonprofit is mapping the modern activist left and in presenting factual information. Here is what they are doing. That is it. I am not doing political advocacy. I'm not shilling for any fucking candidate. I'm not doing any of that. And if they weren't doing things that were overtly political within the status of their nonprofit, they would be fine. But the reason they're all worried about losing their nonprofit status, and quite frankly, actually, this might be something we can exploit. Can we play a little game called Get the nonprofit status of leftist activist organizations revoked? Conservatives, do you guys want something to do? Right-wingers always come in and they're like, Karlyn, what can we do to fight the left? What can we do to fight the left? Okay, I'm going to give you guys something to do. Go make a list of every leftist activist nonprofit for us, and therefore we can work on getting their nonprofit status revoked. We can find loopholes to try to say, hey, this is this organization over here, they really should lose their nonprofit status for reasons X, Y, B, and Z, just based purely on fact, evidence, what the law actually is, what the guidelines actually are. If you guys want to do something productive, let's make a list of leftist activist nonprofits and find ways to get their nonprofit status revoked, which will cost them a lot of money and not allow them to fundraise as much, and they won't be able to get grants and all of this stuff. You guys want to do something productive? Go forth and conquer.
Revoking of our ability to mail at nonprofit rates. So the revoking of a postal subsidy. So if you actually think about being, in many of our cases, like socialists organizing in the capitalist world throughout history, we're essentially talking about like the battle to preserve, subsidies from the bourgeois state. It's kind of like
they're arguing to preserve the benefits they get from the capitalist state, because essentially what they're doing is they're using the capitalist state to fund their socialist revolution. They're running socialist nonprofits within a capitalist world and utilizing and exploiting the bourgeois capitalist system in order to overthrow capitalism. Does everyone understand how this works? Saying to socialists, don't you know you live in capitalism and therefore you can't sell stuff because you're being hypocrites? This is where, again, conservatives miss the mark all the time. Conservatives think if they say to a socialist, excuse me, you own a MacBook and therefore you are a capitalist or you are a hypocrite. Conservatives think if they just expose the socialists for being hypocrites for engaging in capitalism, then they win and the socialists lose because they're just owning the libs and doing that bullshit. When in fact, what is actually going on, the socialists know they exist in a capitalist system. The socialists are operating these nonprofits within a capitalist system. They know that the enemy is capitalism, but what they have figured out is how do we function as socialists within the capitalist system to exploit the capitalist system, to get the capitalist system to fund our activities through the bourgeois state, and how do we preserve our exploitation of the capitalist system to overthrow the system. Why is the DOJ not listening to you? I'll tell you exactly why. Harmeet Dillon could have gotten any information from me that she wanted about the left. I used to send Harmeet Dillon information all the time. Harmeet Dillon then told me she cared more about my use of capital letters than she did about the communists calling to overthrow the government that were teaching at public taxpayer-funded universities. So the DOJ doesn't give a fuck. Harmeet Dillon is one of the most high-ranking officials at the DOJ, and she directly, when I was sending her information about communist college professors working at taxpayer-funded universities, literally calling to overthrow the government at their taxpayer-funded position, when I sent her recordings of this, she told me flat out she cared more about my use of capital letters on the terms overthrowing the government than she did about what I was actually sending her. So the DOJ had the opportunity to listen to me. The DOJ had the opportunity to get any information they wanted out of me. They chose instead to say, excuse me, you are talking to me in a tone that I don't like because I am Harmeet Dillon of the DOJ. And I just don't think that communists calling to overthrow the government from their taxpayer-funded position in publicly funded universities, I don't think that's very important because you are not the right kind of conservative, okay? You are not a Zionist and you don't support Israel, and we can't actually do anything about this because we're too busy bullshitting the public and sending strongly worded letters to Portland, Oregon, telling them to cut out the shit. That's literally what happened, by the way. At the same time that Harmeet Dillon was telling me that she didn't give a flying fuck if college professors in taxpayer-funded positions at public universities were calling to overthrow the government on fucking video, the moment she was telling me that, she was also writing a sternly worded letter to the police department in Portland telling them to cut the shit. How did that work out? How did that work out?
And I think that that even there's little things like I know why it's used, but I think a lot of like journalists I know talking to sources that are, just working class or undocumented workers when they're working on a story, they'll send them instructions on how to download Signal and send them
Pam
whatever.
Bondi was meeting
I
with
think a
Belly
lot
Ray
of the
for
times
information.
we're maybe creating fear and creating barriers to actually have people communicate with us and tell their stories, for instance. And generally, we're making the subject journalists as a subject instead of the class as a subject, and we're making overstating authoritarianism and how close we are to fascism in such a way that if in fact I thought America was on the verge of fascism, then I might not be spending, which is how I plan to spend my next week, writing articles by
Wow. Literally no one in the federal government, the entire federal government, is doing fuck off about the far left. I'm going to say that again. No one in the federal government is doing fuck off about the far left. They do not even understand the problem that we're dealing with. They have no clue.
Gavin Newsom and his bizarre turn, because I honestly think he's, him and his comms team are like among. This isn't even like a leftist point. This is more like their threats to the republic. They're as bad as Trump. I have to figure out how to
Gavin Newsom
make
is
this
as
a
bad as
lefty
Trump.
take and not just say, I have personal distaste. Yeah, exactly. There's something about him I don't like, right? But I do worry that if our goal is to encourage this polarization, like within the Democratic Party, let's say, I think we should be encouraged that there's young people really angry at the Democratic Party establishment and angry about Palestine.
We should be encouraged that young people hate the Democratic Party as much as we do. Remember, these are not Democrats. These are socialists.
About, XYZ. And if it's very hard to say that one of our primary tasks is to increase that contradiction and also say that we need a popular front against a fascism, or that we're on the verge of illegality. What we want to basically say is, hey, it's safe and fun and actually kind of like a duty of people who want to be engaged to engage with left media, engage in political projects like the Democratic Party. Democratic Party. Oh my! If the Worldwide Socialist website sees this, yeah, Democratic
Worldwide Socialist
Socialists of
website.
America.
Many of us that went to the No Kings protest met the Worldwide Socialist website in person.
Yeah. And primaries in the Democratic Party, which I do support. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to do a quick pause. We are about an hour into this presentation. We have about 20 minutes left to go. I know we did a lot of channel memberships yesterday, and I want to just acknowledge that the fact that I haven't cajoled you guys and begged you to donate more channel memberships to make us more progress towards that goal. The reason I haven't done that is you guys donated so many fucking channel memberships yesterday. I feel kind of guilty asking you again. You guys donated over 300 channel memberships yesterday. It was fucking awesome. We brought in a ton of new people to the channel. However, I just want to do a quick pause, and I want to remind people that I am teaching a multi-hour class on the far left. I'm sitting here answering questions. I'm showing you content no one else on the internet is showing you. I'm giving you information literally you cannot find anywhere else. If you appreciate what I'm doing, if I've taught you something in the course of this stream, if you've learned something that you were like, oh shit, I didn't know that, then please feel free to show your gratitude by sending in a channel membership, 5 channel memberships, 10 channel memberships. As a reminder, tomorrow around 6:45 p.m., we will have a live spy stream. Spy stream is a supporter exclusive. Channel membership is one of the ways you get invited to spy stream. If you don't have a channel membership, you have to be a supporter on another platform like Substack or Twitter or Patreon or Locals. All of those are acceptable. But if you want to join us to go inside a live leftist organizing call tomorrow evening, you do need to have a channel membership. This is why I ask people to donate channel memberships so we can bring as many people as possible into these meetings and show people what's really going on. So, let me just ask you guys. We still have half an hour left to watch of this. One in the chat if you've already learned something new about the left that you didn't know before. that you just learned on this stream. 1 in the chat if you've learned something new already today that you didn't know before. 2 in the chat if I haven't taught you anything yet. 1 in the chat if you've learned something new today that you didn't know before. 2 in the chat if I haven't taught you anything new yet. Who are you? Who are you? Hey, I just want to know, Bet, is that your name? Let me just check your channel history. Hang on. Okay, you've been here before. Hey, Bet, how does the left define capitalism? Only for Bet. I'm actually curious if you know this or not. We're going to see if you know this or not. We're going to see how much you know. Because you're the only person that put 2 in the chat, so I'm going to pick on you. You haven't learned anything new today? How does the left define capitalism? Okay, you know everything because your parents are Cuban. How does the left define capitalism? She should know. How does the left define capitalism? No one else answer. How does the left define capitalism? This is a really simple question. You know everything because your parents are from Cuba. So this should be a really, really simple question for you. You shouldn't have to look this up. You shouldn't have to go do ChatGPT. You should have already answered the question. How does the left define capitalism? We are waiting for your answer, Bet. No one else answer. Nope. Wrong answer. So we're going to give you another chance because you know everything because your parents are from Cuba. How does the left define capitalism? This is a really simple question. This is 101 level information. You know everything, right? You haven't learned anything new today? How does the left define capitalism? This is not the correct answer. Try again. You can also say you don't know and admit that you don't know, by the way. That is actually an option. But since you are the only person who claimed you hadn't learned anything today, I think you probably have a listening problem, if I'm being honest. So I'm going to pick on you about it a little bit. How does the left define capitalism? You know everything because your parents are from Cuba. We're waiting. Bet, I'm going to... Oh, no, the is not the answer. Do you want to try again, Bet? Do you want to try to use a complete sentence? Bet, I'm going to show you how many people in my chat know the answer to this question. I'm going to show you exactly how many people know the correct answer. W's in the chat, channel logo with a channel membership. Appreciate it. Bet, we're waiting for your answer. Either answer the question or say you don't know. In which case, I'm about to teach you something new. And hopefully you listen this time. We're waiting, Bet. We're waiting. How does the left define capitalism? You know everything. Your parents are from Cuba. We know. How does the left define capitalism? The what? Okay, so Bet has no fucking clue how the left defines capitalism. Bet, your parents are from Cuba. I thought you were supposed to know everything about communism. You don't even know how they define capitalism. You don't even know how they define the oppressive system that they believe is creating every problem in the world. Chat. How does the left define capitalism? Pop quiz for everyone else in the chat that's been listening. Bet thinks they didn't learn anything new today. Let's teach Bet something new today so they can admit that they don't fucking know everything just because their parents are from Cuba. You think you get fucking points from me because your parents lived in a communist country? If you don't know shit about the left, I don't give a fuck where your parents are from. The left defines capitalism as private property ownership. They define it as private property ownership, 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 private property ownership. Look at all the people in the chat, Bet, who know the answer to this very basic 101 level question. Private property ownership, private property ownership, private property ownership, private property ownership. Private property ownership means bourgeois property that you can use to create personalized, individualized wealth that gives you access to more resources than other people. That creates a hierarchy between the haves and the have-nots. where the haves have property and resources and money. The have-nots do not have property and resources and money. And the left believes that capitalism creates all problems in the world because of the oppression created by the hierarchy that capitalism creates causes all problems. Yeah, so you just learned something new. So maybe we need to improve our listening moving forward, because it seems as though, and yet you didn't know it. And yet you didn't know it, Bet. And yet you didn't know it. So, Bet, here is a instructional video just for you.
You take your top lip and connect it to your bottom lip, you will shut the fuck up. Sometimes shutting the fuck up is the best thing you can do.
Bet, if you don't shut the fuck up and listen, we will force you to shut the fuck up and listen. Just so you know. Or you can leave. Either way. Yo! Hans, the fucking legend. W's to Hans. 20 gifted channel memberships. I was about to say 100. I was like, yeah, that's not 100. 20 gifted channel memberships. 20 gifted channel memberships. Just as good. Hans, you are a fucking king among men. We love you. Even if you're black, Hans. Even if you're black. He's not really black. But even if you were Hans, we would still love you because we don't care if you're black. We don't even care if you're Jewish. We love you and we appreciate the 20 gifted channel memberships. Everyone do a round of W's in the chat for Hans. Really appreciate that. What's left of this $10 is your property now. Thank you, Chitalago. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. All right, let's continue.
So one of the other things that I'm thinking about in terms of state repression right now is also just what the labor force is looking like, and in particular, the labor force for journalists. Tori is an intern at in these times right now, and we do not have jobs for brilliant young journalists to like come into. And I see this as part of the state attacks on media, which is basically also helping limit our possibilities and capabilities to bring great young journalists up through the ranks and provide jobs and get into it. So all these like angry young people, I want them writing, like also, and like giving them jobs to like write and things like that, which is completely like fairly impossible. I think in these times, and the nation are like some of the last to have an internship program, like really these days too. And so us as a unit of resistance needs to be fueled and grow too. And that's just not happening.
I have a whole bunch more specific questions about the war in Iran, about a number of other things too, but we're at that point where I think we actually want to open up to the audience and ask some questions and stop listening to me. So I think we'll do that next. So if anybody has anything you want to throw at the panel, either specific participants or general questions, go for that. Otherwise, you are going to be subjected to more questions from me. Yeah, you can go ahead.
I would love to hear more of your thoughts just around censorship.
Oh no, Bet. Was I unclear? Was I unclear about what we were requiring you to do? Bet, you seem to be confused. You seem to be confused. You are in my classroom. I am not in your classroom. You are in my fucking classroom. In my classroom, Bet, there is a hierarchy in which I am on the top and you are on the bottom. If you speak after I've told you to shut the fuck up and listen, because you obviously don't know what you're talking about, because you don't know basic lived experience. My lived experience? Bet, you stupid fucking bitch. You stupid fucking bitch. You couldn't even define what capitalism means. Do you really think we give a flying fuck about your parents' lived experience in Cuba? Do you think we give a flying fuck what you have to say? 1 in the chat if you are here to learn from me. 2 in the chat if you're here to learn from the lived experience of a loser who doesn't know basic 101 level information about the left. 1 in the chat if you're here to learn from me. 2 in the chat if you are here to learn from this person who doesn't know basic 101 level information about the left, but they have lived experiences. So I'm very sorry, Bet. It looks like everyone's here to learn from me and not from you, and we don't give a fuck what you think. So because you couldn't shut the fuck up and listen the first times I asked you nicely, now I'm going to shut you the fuck up. You're in a 5-minute timeout. You will sit your ass there. And if you come back and whine and complain and talk any more about your fucking lived experience, what I quite frankly don't care about at all, we will remove you from the channel. W's old sub. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, Bet, do you know what my lived experience is? I've gone undercover more with the far left than any other person that I know of in the country. While you've been whining about your lived experience and the lived experience of your parents on Twitter or YouTube or wherever the fuck. So I don't give a fuck. I don't care. We all have lived experiences, you stupid bitch. God. Nerve of some people. Yeah, the nerve of some people. My lived experience told me to shut the fuck up when I'm in a classroom. Don't pretend you're the fucking teacher of a classroom that you are not the teacher in. Can you imagine unironically coming into my chat and saying, "Excuse me, my lived experience matters more than evidence"? Like, go away. Fucking leftist.
Should I speak up? Or?
I'll repeat people's questions. Oh, the microphone's working? Great. Yeah, so just speak up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I'd love to hear more about just your thoughts on censorship. I know you talked a little bit about how things can go viral on social media and there's ethical concerns if it's, beyond your intended scope. You talked a little bit about how things can be posed as credible based on how clips are shot in podcast format or not. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on like social media algorithms and parts of in distribution and just like using those keywords or not, and just kind of what role, especially for new, young, emerging voices and independent publications, like when you're building your audience, how does digital censorship come into your strategy plan?
Oh, I should have 63 in the banner.
Want to take a couple of questions at once, or do we want to?
Sure. There we go.
Yeah. So I think you and the Busher had another question as well. Yeah. So we'll do maybe 2, 3. You and then you go back.
I'm looking one thing up. Hang on, my phone. Where's my phone? I'm very glad that this panel happened. Thanks to everyone participating and for organizing it. And I wanted to get the panel's reaction with regards to at least what I perceive as an allergy on the left and liberal side regarding media. Whereas on the right, you've had, going back to, and I looked up his name, Mark Fowler, FCC chair in the 1980s, regarding the abolition of the fairness doctrine, helping to bring up the rise of right-wing, mostly radio, but other media, rise of Rush Limbaugh and other attendant voices, where now practically the entire AM and FM spectrum are considered to be basically right-wing fiefdoms. Stephen Crowder, right-wing podcaster, complained that his podcast payment for his podcast, which he's publicly disclosed at $50 million a year, was too small. If we got $50 million a year, we'd be dancing in the streets. My point is that I think that the left seems to, and why I'm glad this panel happened, and thank you for all the work that you do, that there seems to be an allergy on the left with regards to treating the media as central to struggles. And what are your thoughts on that? Am I delusional? Has things changed? What are your thoughts?
My question's kind of similar to the censorship one.
Okay, for people who don't watch leftist meetings, you might be confused about what's happening right now because you're hearing people in the crowd ask questions and make statements, and no one on the panel is responding to them. Okay, when you are at a right-leaning event, what tends to happen is when they get into Q&A, they come up to the microphone, they ask a question, the panel answers their question. Leftist events are run a little bit differently in that at leftist events, when they open the Q&A, they have a line of people at the microphone. They take several questions in a row without answering the questions. They let people make statements. And then what happens is they will go through the panel and the panel will respond to kind of like the bits and pieces from different questions that they want to respond to. If you're confused about why people are asking questions and they're not answering, that's why. They're taking several questions and they're stacking the questions. Exactly. They're stacking the questions, ding, 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 and they will respond to them at some point.
The panel being about, what is the word on the thing? The hostile regime. And I think of the regime not just as MAGA and Trump, but the people,
they pick and choose what they want to
billionaires,
answer.
trillionaires who are pulling the strings behind him, who are simultaneously cutting funding, taking over the Wall Street Journal, doing things like this. In these times, how do you feel that your tactics are changing in this, when we have censorship, when journalism is currently under attack by this hostile regime?
Exactly.
What are the tactics that you are changing from doing something that traditionally worked under being able to get nonprofit status and be able to have a foundation sponsor you? But now that this is kind of disappearing, what are kind of the tactics
They're not
that you're
doing
taking
progressive
on
stuff.
differently to approach this new sort of circumstance that we're in?
Yo, W's,
Okay,
thank
so
you,
yeah, that's
bro.
a couple
You
of those related,
rock.
but-
Thank you.
Take them up. There's the censorship questions, and then this question about is there an allergy to? Yeah.
I have the microphone, so I guess I'll start. To the censorship question, I think one of the things we've had to contend with is the recognition of the shift of what these platforms are over the last decade. So, when we started, they seemed to be organic social networking spaces, and now they have become profit-seeking algorithms. And so with that, they also are like consumer-facing products. And so one of the ways that unfortunately is just like ad purchasing as a way to navigate and to reach more people. And it feels yucky to have to give Google or Mark Zuckerberg or any of them another dollar, but it is becoming more and more a necessity if we want to reach people. And so with that, as long as you're not saying some of the top line keywords, they will take your money because their ideology is that more than anti-socialism sometimes. So that comes up first is it feels very yucky. It feels like a compromise, but that has been a way. And then also, right, the idea is to not be not interesting or to be hidden or to be buried. The thing we're doing is how to be strategic to not be disproportionately received by those that will be antagonistic to this work and make the engaging of it yucky. I keep saying yucky. I don't know why this is. It's a yucky conversation. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel you, right? To the idea of this hostile regime is much more than the Trump and MAGA. We started this work in 2015 under the quote unquote idyllic Obama administration. And that felt like a hostile regime too. So I want to.
The Obama administration felt like a hostile regime? Wow. The Obama administration felt like a hostile regime to socialists. I was to understand from conservatives that socialists love Obama because he was a communist. No, apparently they thought that Obama was a hostile regime. And by the way, they shit talk Obama all the time. They call Obama the deporter in chief. They shit talk Obama for bombing countries and stuff like that. They do not like Obama. So while conservatives might have convinced themselves that Obama is a communist, real communists and socialists shit talk Obama all the time to this day. Listen again.
Not be not interesting or to be hidden or to be buried. The thing we're doing is how to be strategic to not be disproportionately received by those that will be antagonistic to this work and make the engaging of it yucky. I keep saying yucky. I don't know why this is. It's a yucky conversation. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel you, right? To the idea of this hostile regime is much more than the Trump and MAGA. Like, we started this work in 2015 under the quote unquote idyllic Obama administration, and that felt like a hostile regime too. So just I want to definitely acknowledge that point. And then to the like the lack of media, and media is just the plural of medium, which just means in the middle. And I think the difference between the left and the right is that
Reagan.
they still have mass social structures that can organize beyond like
I'm just gonna let it
organization,
happen now.
grassroots organizing, that do not seem to exist in the same way for us culturally, right? So they have a UFC, they have a church, they have a military, which allows one to sponsor. There's this interplay. They're gonna have a fight on the White House. There,
You know what? I do have to say though, KB, I love it when I ban people and then they come back. I love it. KB got permanently. This is what happened to Bot too, by the way. Bot totally got banned by me when she first started interacting with me because she was a dick. And then Bot came back, made a new account, came back, and now Bot is like the chief investigative officer of the cult. Bot now has an official title. So I actually fucking love it when I ban people, and yet they are so motivated to learn that they learn from the experience of getting banned, and then they learn to shut the fuck up and listen, and then they come back because they make a new account, and then they actually start listening and learning. And by the way, I do general amnesties every now and again where I just unban everyone. It happens a couple times a year whenever I feel like it. I haven't been able to do it on Twitter lately because Twitter is just way too toxic. Like there are times with Twitter where I'm like, I should just unban everyone and just, start again, give everyone a fresh start. And then it gets so toxic on Twitter that I'm like, oh no, I'm not unbanning people. Like that's not going to happen. But like, I fucking love it when people do this. I think it's great. It's like you wanted it and you fucking earned it. And you learned yourself a lesson and you didn't get banned again.
You mentioned the radio boom. These are funded by this evangelical, wealthy capitalist instrument as well. So I think some of the difference is, you're right, like a lack of meeting the moment, a lack of responsibility.
It's okay, Loki. Don't worry about it.
Like,
I know you
of my
will when you
lifetime,
can.
people have been
I'm sorry to hear
disorganized.
that.
But the center and the center right have been able to keep these large tentpole structures that we don't think of as explicitly political vehicles. We don't think of the NFL as, we don't think of UFC. We don't
Thanks,
think
Walter.
of, again, even, I forgot my third example. I try to always do the rule of threes, but I think that's a big part of the distinctions. They have this actual other infrastructural base that keeps them in a home. And we
So
are
real.
much more disparate.
There's a method
The
to my madness.
only other thing
So
I would
real.
add to that question is sometimes we actually try to be correct. And I don't mean like be right, ideological. I mean like tell the truth about things. And there is a limit to that exists
is
as
a lived
people trying to
experience.
tell stories ethically and correctly in terms of how bombastic and sensationalist you can be. And if you don't have that expectation of yourself and your work, you can reach people who are going to have an emotional
Thank
reaction
you, Walter.
to
I
some bullshit.
appreciate it.
So I think that's part of it is like, yeah, they tried to make shock jacks on the left. It's a different business. And not every, there's spaces within that have tried to carve it and challenge it and try to say like, how do we push respectability while still holding to certain values? And I think there's a lot of, I think that are valiant. Those are valiant attempts. And that's where you meet what Dame said of like, there isn't a funding structure behind that. Because in addition to those main
I mentioned earlier that I'm going viral right now on like Instagram and TikTok, and also apparently on Facebook because that's Instagram. One of the downsides of going viral for talking about the no king stuff is, does anyone want to take a guess what the bulk of the conservative comments are saying in response to my video talking about us going undercover at the No Kings protest? I get notifications every couple of seconds right now, I swear to God. And I don't go and look in the comments on Facebook, quite frankly, because I'm afraid to. Facebook, I just leave to do its own thing. Yes, Reagan, yes! Almost every fucking conservative comment I get is, now we just have to know who's funding them. Who's funding them? Who's funding them? Who's funding them? Where is the funding coming from? Who's it's like, and I'm just like, this is why I don't go on Facebook. This is why, like, if I post something on Facebook and it ends up getting a lot of views and I end up getting notifications about comments coming in all fucking day, I can't even look at them because I know just from the notifications that like 90% of the fucking comments are, where is the funding coming from? I should say, you know who's really funding them? Dan Bongino. I should, actually.
Polls. There's also like a million right-wing think tanks and incubators for their influencer
Oh no,
world.
you got
And like
put in a
the
timeout
only
again,
thing that
Matt.
exists for that
Oh
on the
no.
quote left is like there's 3 things affiliated with like Pod Save America and the Democratic
Hey guys, Bet's lived experience says that everyone at the No Kings protest were old ladies. 1 in the chat if you went to the No Kings protest and it was all old ladies. 2 in the chat if you went to the No Kings protest and it was not all old ladies. And don't answer if you didn't go. Like, I'm talking about people on the ground. 1 in the chat if you went to the No Kings protest and it was all just old ladies. 2 in the chat if you went to the No Kings protest and it was not old ladies. You see, Bet, we had a team of volunteers all over the country going to these things. So again, lived experience wrong. That's strike 2, Bet. You get 1 more strike, you're going to get deported from the channel. Looks like people who actually went and did on the ground research disagree with you. Imagine my shock.
Party. Like there isn't a fringe left infrastructure for making
in fact, Chris knows that Bet is lying about that specific protest in Tallahassee because a young activist literally got arrested at the protest in Tallahassee. So once again, Bet, it looks like your lived experience does not match fucking reality because we are hinged into reality here. And if young people are getting arrested at the Tallahassee protest, then I promise you, you stupid bitch that won't shut the fuck up and listen for once in your life, they were not all old ladies. So we'll see if Bet comes back again before the end of the stream to make another stupid retard comment. We'll
media
see.
project. Yeah, that doesn't really exist. Like again, maybe we're correct sometimes in what we say, and we don't have the backing of U.S. empire.
Yeah, I mean, the right funds its media. And one of the things we've been doing in our media collaborations over the past couple of years is trying to tell foundations on the progressive end, the right funds its media. That's part of its strategy. It's baked into all
I fucking wish the right
roadmap
funded
making
media.
that we're always hearing about these days, that they're accomplishing their missions that they've been carving out for decades. And funding media was a critical part of that roadmap, of course. And on the left, I think foundations are often very issue specific. And so if they don't have a journalism portfolio, then they won't be funding them. They don't see journalism as connected with every single other issue, which it is. And I think also there's less of a recognition among funders and even smaller donors on the left that we need institutions. We don't want these massive monopolies and these structures of violence, but we do need institutions that last, that have memory, that hold power, that can build power. And our media institutions are really important and hold so many of those knowledge resources. And so many of them are dying, So I think part of it really is this boring answer of needing to teach people with money that that's the necessity, and I'll leave it there.
We need to do that too. Teach people with money.
So
that's
on the
necessity.
algorithm question, I think none of us are big enough or have enough funds to buck any trend. So you just have to go with the flow, unfortunately. I learned a lot when Jacobin was growing in town in the mid 2010s. I'm making this sound like 40 years ago, right? Mid 2010s. My youth from Truth Out, actually, because Truth Out was the best at Facebook on the left. You could just tell they had the highest engagement. They knew how to structure their share lines, and there was no guide. I actually could have just asked, but I had too much pride to ask, so I just studied and took notes and looked at what they were doing.
So next
No, next time I'm not going to ask either. Do for self, you know? I am a socialist, but I'm also, the son of West Indian immigrants, they, but don't ask questions. This quiet parenting thing would be a new, I think generally positive phenomenon. I'm watching my sister do it. I'm like, oh, this is the other way. So, so Truth App managed to really, I think, get tremendous growth and gains, engagement from the Facebook era. But then, unlike other publications, was able to kind of pivot from it, and it seems like move towards like newsletters and other forms of direct engagement and things like that. And Jacobin was kind of following those trends and also trying to do kind of the same things. And there was no version of either avoiding Facebook or otherwise bucking the trend.
Hans
You
is
kind
an
of we're small fish in a big market with big trends. We're never gonna
so real. So
be
true.
able to fight the thing. And essentially, we don't have the money or resources to innovate. We're always going to emulate, right? And there's best practices for certain things. Rumike, Forbes, Jackman's creative director, kind of says, there's no such thing as like left wing or right wing like design. There's like good or bad design. The same way there's no such thing as like left wing or right wing accounting. Like either the numbers are going to add up or they're not going to add up. The one thing I would add as far as the billionaire influence on media, well, first of all, it makes sense that they have the Wall Street Journal, right? It would be strange if they didn't. Like they, I think even after the revolution, we might allow the reactionaries to just keep the Wall Street Journal, right? Like if you look at the composition of like the Vietnamese parliament or whatever, there's like
They don't want to control the
498
Wall
seats
Street
the
Journal
Communist
because
Party,
of
two
capitalism.
for some small opposition or whatever. Like that'll be the Wall Street Journal. But in general, I think it's worth noting that a lot of the millionaire and billionaire money does not go to the right. It goes to the center and to some degree, what I would actually call in the actual spectrum of American politics, the center left. And that money is poorly spent, and often it's destructive in part because, and this, it's not always the people's fault, but it encourages not even the most ideologically moderate people, but it encourages, I think, a certain set of like practices and structuring institutions that is part of like the growth of a certain type of NGO culture, as opposed to cultures that encourage more open-ended and messy participation from below of people. And I want to be careful with my words because I actually
Okay. This can't be fucking real. Okay. I can't walk around freely at these protests because I'm a woman of color and I get scared of the people. I'm very sorry. Bet you are obviously and clearly a leftist. You are obviously and clearly a fucking leftist. And I just don't think we can tolerate this anymore. You've been told not to be retarded in the chat multiple times. You are still not shutting the fuck up. 1 in the chat if we need to deport Bet from the channel. 2 in the chat if Bet can stay. 1 for deport. 2 for the obvious leftist can stay. Yep. Deporto! I'm very sorry, Bet. It's you, not us. You just don't belong here. You don't fit in. Go find some leftist community that cares about your lived experience. I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It's over. We tried and we warned you and we tried to give you guidance and no. No, I don't believe she is, though. I don't believe she is. And if she is, that was a gross fucking misjudgment. So if Bet wants to come back, Bet can go create another fucking account and earn her way back and stop saying retarded shit in the chat, because I don't actually find it that funny when we have said several times, stop saying retarded shit in the chat. I don't care. I don't care. Either it was inappropriate or it was just a colossal misjudgment of the situation. So now she can deal with the consequences and we will move forward.
We don't think that it's some sort of plot of they're getting the kind of conciliatory people, and these people kind of like are just trying to get jobs or whatever. I think the actual processes and how it plays out are more is more complicated. And but
Yeah.
in many
You know,
cases, like, when
Shay,
we talk about like JD
helicopter.
Vance's rise, we often talk Peter Thiel bought him an election in Ohio. But if you actually look at that election, the Democrats massively
Back to Cuba.
you could fact check this, I might be wrong, but I'm 99% sure the Democrats massively outspent JD Vance in that election, and behind like a candidate that I disagree with a lot, but it's kind of tailor made for Ohio in the sense of pro industrial policy, manufacturing, yada yada, and the money wasn't enough because there were these broader structural trends and kind of political organizing that had already wedded so many people to the right, and I think we need to break that stranglehold. But the thing, our barrier is not just the money of the right. It's kind of these deeper cultural appeal that we'll have to break. And I think, again, this is why Palestine has really become an important issue, not just in a the moral sense, but also as a populist issue that's a generational issue. It's an issue where in rural areas where I've done talks to, the young people are all extremely concerned about U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. They're extremely concerned about a variety of other issues that I think shows a real populist, shift and opportunities that a lot of the where the money is going, is not really falling.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I don't have too much to add, except for a lot of the conversation here, especially around, right media, or right-wing folks supporting right media and investing in it. So when we talk about sort of like the right and cultural creation in the media, we often talk about the NRA. And the reason we talk about the NRA is because the NRA made a decision a while ago that they were not going to get good coverage for what they're doing. And they're like, we're not really doing good things. We're probably not going to get covered. So they decided to create a whole series of television shows and other, like, all of this, like, other cultural content so people could come in the NRA ecosystem, not really know that they were there, and like kind of be cool with guns. And it became like more of a lifestyle, things like that. This is fucking brilliant, right? This is like where it's the recognition that like journalism and storytelling and the interplay there and what's like possible is like actually very exciting if you think about it. And the left doesn't have much that's anywhere close to what NRA has and a number of other organizations throughout the right have, which are these entire ecosystems of like their own media. And it's like their own communities supporting this media and things like that. I would hope that some of my friends in the audience plug their ears for a sec, because most of my friends do not subscribe to any of our public events. At the end of the day, some of them do, many of them don't, for all sorts of reasons. And you can always tell which ones they are. And if they might know based on the birthday presents, like also. But this is actually interesting. One talk that I moderated recently at Women and Children First, I like showed up with like a list of publications and just passed them out to everybody. And like, please just pick one. Just like, please, these are free over here and things like that. And this does speak, I think, a lot to like whether or not the left is like supporting us at the levels or not. Now, it's not necessarily up to the left to like do that, but I do think thinking about this dynamic where the right has been able to actually build not only, take over parts of mass media, corporate media, but build out cultural creation far more than the left has, right? If we look at some of the shows that have been coming out of Hollywood, for example, over the last couple of years, show some interesting things that make us think that maybe this is about sort of paving over the genocide. Just maybe, right? And other like movies and things like that. until the left really gets in this mindset that like we are storytellers beyond just the things that we publish in the magazine, like then we'll begin getting to the places that we want to go to, because we have to come at it from so many different angles.
Well, we are at the point where we said we were going to end the program and move in the direction of having some snacks and informally being able to chat around. So one of the negative sides of having an excellent panel that's made up of 5 brilliant people with doing a bunch of different things is that we only had 1 round of questions. So apologies on that part, but I thought it was a great conversation. It obviously is not.
That's it. We're done. We're done. We made it through the presentation. I thought that this was, wasn't like super, super spicy, and most socialist presentations are not super spicy. But I did think the clips we got about like them talking about funding and that sort of stuff, and obviously them shitting on Democrats and Obama. It's always a good thing to hear that. But I thought that this was a good thing to watch. I'm glad we did. There wasn't as much whining. Actually, it was kind of shocking to me. It was kind of shocking to me that they were so impressed by right-wing media. And you know what's funny? You know what's funny? Here's what it is. You know what's funny? They were so impressed by right-wing media because right-wing media is made up of almost completely inauthentic grifters who are literally funded to advance a right-wing narrative. And the left is looking at this and they're going, hey, we want money to tell a leftist narrative. Can you guys give us? The right has people giving them money to tell a completely inauthentic narrative. And they've got this whole media system where they're funding all of this bullshit and they've got all this money and they're so strategic about it. Can you give us money to do our left-wing narrative? Like, isn't that fucking funny? That's probably the funniest part of this whole thing. Is that they are literally enamored by the conservative media apparatus that is almost completely inauthentic grifting shills who are paid to do nothing but advance the narrative. And the left is looking at that and they're going, holy shit, that's fucking brilliant. We need to do that for our side too. Can people give us money to be inauthentic grifters and just talk about our narrative? Can we please do that? These are not media matters. The movement media. You're right. I thought you said media matters. I misread. Yeah, movement media and actors. Yeah. So that is the big inspiration that the left is taking from the right. Is that the right is made up of completely inauthentic grifters. Yeah, that is the lesson that the left is learning from the right, is that grifting is awesome and they should do more of it. Wow. You know what? We didn't meet the membership goal today. I mean, listen, there's still time for people to donate memberships if people want to. But like I said, we way overshot the membership goal yesterday. I still think that 64 memberships is pretty fucking good. 64 new channel members, even if we didn't meet our channel membership goal, that's still pretty fucking good. And so we way overshot the membership goal yesterday. I am not worried about not meeting the goal today. We got look at this. Look at this. He's like, we're gonna get one more in there. W's Chitalago. We appreciate it. What time is it? I don't know. What time is that? Is this like on Kino Casino's Kick channel or something? I really need to do work though, but I kind of want to watch it. But like, when is it on and what's happening? When is it on and what's happening? Oh, that's not what I want to watch. Hang on. Yeah. Kino Casino. Oh, is it on right now? Has it literally just started? Oh shit. It's on right now, isn't it? They just started it. They just started it. They just started the stream. It's on right now. They literally just started the stream. Let's just tune in real quick.
Casino, April 8th, 2026. And I just gotta ask, where the fuck are you, Jeremy Hambley? You cuckold fucking bitch. He's running for the fucking hills, the fastest he's ever waddled in his shit pants fucking life. The only thing he's ever moved this fast for was his emergency bowel evac evacuation in the fucking Walmart. He's laying down like the punk ass cuckold fucking bitch he is. We fucking called him out. We said, Jer, let's fucking go. And he's fucking running scared like a fucking bitch. You gotta understand.
Okay. If I start a stream right now to have a watch party about this, do you guys think we can do the channel membership goal? One in the chat, if you guys can get me to the channel membership goal, if I do a stream tonight to watch this live, I will literally start it right fucking now. W's Unmasked Red Death. 2 in the chat if you think that's impossible. 1 if we can hit the membership goal. 2 in the chat if you think that's impossible.
Down that our YouTube would be taken down, but you haven't done fucking shit. We pointed straight down and said, your wife gets fucked by the Jew bull, buddy. Your Jew bull is a sex swinger. Your Jew bull is a fucking criminal, and you sit in your fucking cuck chair and you let her get fucked while you rub your tiny pecker until it creams. And you didn't do fucking shit, you prag ass prison bitch. You know how it is when you call it out on the fucking yard and you say, let's go to fucking war, and you get your ass beaten with not one licking. You didn't throw one fucking punch back to protect your fucking wife, to protect your fucking family, to protect your reputation or your business. You just laid down and let us fuck your wife. You laid down and let us piss in your fucking mouth. You laid down for us just like you laid down for that tranny in the bar, getting your ass fucking beaten by a man in a...
You know PPSP has been thinking about that all night. Okay, I'm doing it. I will shut down this stream. I'm very quickly going to start another stream. I've already set it up. Give me 2 seconds. We'll come right back. I'm not going to do an intro. We're just going to go right into it. Okay, I'll see you in 2 minutes.